Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. God Level Majin Buu. Chapter 61. Because Shi Yan's stomach had long been filled with water, and she couldn't eat anything at all, she kept in onlooker mode the whole time. The meat was brought over by the boss one by one. After a while, Nara Shikaku put down the bowl and announced that the meal was over. Immediately afterwards, Yamanaka Haichi couldn't eat any more. Only Jukwon and Akamichi Dingza remained on the table, and they continued. Akamichi Dingza glanced at Jukwon sweatingly, and then worked harder to eliminate the slices of meat in front of him. Although Jukwon is very strong in strength, in terms of eating, Akamichi Dingza, as the head of the Akamichi clan, must not admit defeat. Unknowingly, Akamichi Dingza has turned eating breakfast into a competition, and he wants to defend the honor of the Akamichi clan. Jukwon also saw the idea of Akamichi Dingza, and couldn't help but smile. Want to compare food intake with Buu's physique? Then eat until you doubt life. Because once the food is eaten by Jukwon, it is almost instantly converted into energy and replenished into cells. So although Jukwon had eaten 30 portions of sliced meat, his stomach was still empty. Finally, after eliminating the 38th portion of meat, Akamichi Dingza really couldn't do it, lying heavily on the table. As a member of the Akamichi clan, he definitely belongs to Konoha's #1 foodie. But Akamichi Dingza, who was originally full of confidence in this, lost to outsiders for the first time today, which really made him feel doubtful about life. At this time, Jukwon was eating the 50th portion of meat gracefully, looking as if he hadn't eaten enough. Even the trio of pigs and deer butterflies couldn't help but wonder how much more could Jukwon eat. Finally, because all the meat in the hotel was sold, Jukwon ended his breakfast without ending. Iwane Village, noon. The Cheyenne messenger group, which came to sign the peace treaty, had arrived in Yenian Village in advance to meet with the Yenian High Level. According to the process, you only need to wait for the arrival of the Konoha emissary group, and the three parties sit together to finalize the details, and then the peace treaty can be signed. The agreed time for signing the peace treaty was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but it was now 12:59, and there was still no shadow of the Konoha messenger group. It seems that the people of the Konoha messenger group will not be able to arrive on time. Iwane's high-level elder Inoue, after glancing at the time, said a little unpleasantly. As soon as his words fell, the door of the conference room was opened. It depends, the time is just right. Nara Shikahisa, who represented the leader of the Konoha messenger group, walked in from outside the door and said. They are followed by Haichi Yamanaka, Akamichi Dingza, and Yuki, who is dressed in a dark costume. You can't arrive early for something as important as signing a peace treaty. Seeing the arrival of the Konoha messenger group, Elder Inoue was even more angry. The reason is simple, because Inoue's son was on the battlefield and died at the hands of Konoha ninjas. So seeing the ninja of Konoha, he was naturally very upset. It's a pity that the third ninja war is over, and Tsuchikage also ordered a truce to cultivate, and it is hopeless for Inoue to find Konoha's ninja to take revenge in the future. I'm old, but don't be so angry, otherwise I'm careful of a heart attack. Jukwon, who was the last to enter the conference room, said lightly. I'd rather see who dares to curse, Black Robe 9 Springs. Quote. Inoue just looked at the door, but he saw the last person that the major ninja villages wanted to see. For a while, the entire conference room suddenly fell silent. Everyone's eyes were all on Jukwon, and the black robe was too eye-catching. Along with the series of events that happened under the black robe, it was even more appalling. I accepted Konoha's commission to come and ensure the smooth signing of the peace treaty. Do you have any questions? Jukwon sat on a chair nearby and asked in an uncaring tone. HMPH. The shelf is not small, and I don't know if you are really the rumored black robe Jukwon, or Konoha looking for someone to pretend. Quote. Inoue asked questioningly after calming down from his initial surprise. The reason why I asked this was because Iwane Village had also encountered some ninjas who claimed to be Black Robe 9 Springs before, but they were all imposters. Since this situation can occur in Iwahide Village, Konoha may also find someone to pretend to be a black robe in order to win greater interests in the next negotiations. Moreover, Inoue did not find a little momentum of the existence of a strong man from Jukwon, so he was more sure of the identity of Jukwon's imposter. You have a point, so I need to prove that I am me. When Juquan heard this, he asked with some amusement. It would be best if you could prove your identity, and if you were really the rumored person, there is naturally no problem, but if you are not, I'm afraid we will have to doubt the sincerity of Konoha. Inoue said with a politician face, looking like he was thinking about Iwahide village. Isn't it proof? It's very simple, but first of all, this is what you made me prove. Juquan turned his head to look at the quiet Yenian village outside the window, curled the corners of his mouth and smiled. Since Yenian village wants to prove it, then give them a proof, but I hope they don't regret it. In the next second, Juquan controlled the release of chakra, and 10-tailed beast jade suddenly condensed in front of him. Inside each tailed beast jade, there are at least 10 elite Shangnin chakra. Wait, what are you going to do? Inoue saw the tailed beast jade appear, and suddenly felt that the situation was not good, and asked in shock. Because of this kind of thing as tailed beast jade, as an elder, he knew very well that this technique could not be fake at all. Moreover, Inoue felt that the huge amount of chakra contained in the tailed beast jade was not at all something that ordinary ninjas could have. This shows a very terrifying thing, that is, the person in front of him is really the rumored black-robed Juquan. Of course it's to prove to you, I am me. Juquan explained as a matter of course, while waving out the window. Nope, Inoue wanted to stop it, but he was still one step late, and he could only watch as the 10-tailed beast jade broke through the window and flew straight to various places in Yenian village. Boom! The tailed beast jade exploded directly after touching the building, and the flames instantly shot up in 10 different areas. Although it was still daytime, the entire village of Iwayne was still dyed red. How strong is Juquan's tailed beast jade? Although it is only a small tailed beast jade, it can contain the chakra amount of 10 elite upper ninja. Simply put, just a small tailed beast jade can directly destroy an area of Yenian village. 10 small tailed beast jade went down, that is, destroyed 10 areas, directly causing the paralysis of various systems in Yenian village. Hospitals, police departments, houses. As far as the eye can see, the entire Yenian village is in chaos. You deliberately destroyed the village of Iwahito. Quote. Inoue pointed at Juquan and said angrily, the whole person was a little shaky because of anger. He originally thought that Juquan showed the tailed beast jade, probably just to intimidate Yenian village and thus gain benefits. But I didn't expect that Juquan said that it would be blown up, and there was no room for negotiation. Didn't you say you wanted to prove it? Of course, I want to prove to you, as for this situation in Yenian village, strictly you caused it. Quote. Juquan spread out his hands and in a very innocent tone, he pushed all the responsibility to Inoue. Quote. Inoue really felt like he was going to have a heart attack, and he couldn't say a word. As soon as this matter comes out, no matter how Inoue explains it, it will become the culprit of destroying Iwahide village. What the hell happened? At this time, the door of the conference room was pushed open, and Tsuchikage Onoki came in with a group of ninjas. As an elderly Tokage, Onoki's thinking is still stuck in the thinking of the older generation. He believes that signing a contract should also pay attention to identity parity. Since the envoy group of Konoha and Tsunohide were only sent by qualified shinobi, then Onoki also handed over all the matters of signing the contract to Iwayne's elder Inoue. Otherwise, letting a Tsuchikage negotiate with Kami Shinobu from the outer village is really a loss of identity in Onoki's opinion. But he didn't expect that before a while, Iwahide village was bombed, so Onoki could only follow the source of the attack and come to the conference room. Lord Tsuchikage, we in Konoha entrusted Lord Koizumi to ensure the smooth signing of the contract, but Elder Inoue does not believe in the identity of Lord Koizumi, so Lord Koizumi has to prove himself in this way. Nara Shikahisa saw the main lord of Iwayne village coming, smiled bitterly, and slowly explained. For Juquan's approach, Nara Shikaku did not feel much surprise. After seeing Juquan destroy the entire black market because he was not satisfied with the low reward, and then look at the situation in Yenian village, it is simply trivial. Proof. Is this how you prove your identity? Quote. Onoki didn't know so much, he only felt so angry now, but thinking of the end of Union Village still made his tone unconsciously much weaker. Immediately afterwards, Onoki glared at Inoue with some sternness, and couldn't help but secretly sigh that Inoue was getting more and more confused. What is there to prove for this kind of thing? Well, now it has indeed proved that Juquan is really the rumored person, and as a result, Yenian village was bombed. Then again, even if it turns out that Juquan is fake, what can it be? Can the loss be greater than it is now? This is what your Yenian village has to ask me to prove my identity, but now you blame me, and you brought so many people to Xingxi and move the crowd over. Do you want to seek revenge on me? Juquan sat on the chair, showed an expression of looking at the joke, and said unhurriedly. Your Excellency, Juquan said and smiled, I just came to find out the situation, where I slack. I hope your Excellency Juquan will forgive me more. Onoki sighed helplessly, and after speaking, he waved his hand, causing the ninjas who came with him to retreat one after another. Looking for revenge on Juquan. This kind of thing, even if he borrowed 10 more dares from Onoki, he would not dare to do it. Haven't you seen what Union Village is like now? Onoki, who is old and refined, sees the problem very thoroughly, and since he can endure all the way from the era of Pillars and Madara, then he doesn't care how much to endure this time. As for Elder Inoue, due to snubbing His Excellency Juquan, I have brought a lot of losses to Iwayne Village, and now I have ordered in my capacity as Tsuchikage to remove your status as an elder. In order to completely calm Kusan's dissatisfaction, Onoki continued. In just one sentence, Inoue fell directly from the identity of an elder back to an ordinary ninja. Lord Tsuchikage, you can't blame me for this, I'm all for the benefit of Iwahide Village. It's all him. It was this person who destroyed Yenian Village. Quote. Inoue said while shirking his responsibility while pointing angrily at Juquan. If he loses his status as an elder, then the rights and status that accompany this identity will all leave Inoue. How can he be willing? Inoue is enough. Isn't it big enough? Quote. Onoki rubbed his temples and stopped with some headache. He was really worried that if he caused Juquan's dissatisfaction again, it would make Yenian Village follow in the footsteps of Union Village, even worse than Union Village. Tsuchikage-sama, our Yenian Village can't be like Union Village, and we dare not fight back if we are bullied. Quote. Inoue retorted regardless of the occasion, fearing that he would be deprived of his status as an elder. He had lost his mind a little. So are you going to go to war with me on behalf of Yenian Village? Juquan asked with a smile, but it made people shudder. Please also ask your Excellency Juquan not to misunderstand, Inoue's words and deeds do not represent Iwayne Village. Onoki hurriedly interjected to make a stand, and even wanted to take down Inoue in public. Tuden Rock Pillar Prison. Taking advantage of Juquan's distraction from speaking, Inoue felt that this was a great opportunity and took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Huge rock pillars rose from the conference room, completely trapping Juquan. Ha ha ha, Tsuchikage-sama, now that he has been completely bound, soon I will be able to get rid of this scourge for the ninja world. Quote. Inoue saw that his ninjutsu had succeeded, and smiled proudly. Being able to become an elder, Inoue's strength is also good, and he is already at the quasi-shadow level. Therefore, the hardness of these rock pillars he made has long surpassed ordinary rock, and can even be compared with steel, and he is not worried about Juquan escaping at all. The black-robed Juquan is also the person entrusted by you Konoha, don't you save him? Seeing that the Konoha messenger group was still sitting in place, not worried at all, Hakura, the leader of the sand-hidden group, asked with some curiosity. This level of technique can't trap Lord Juquan at all. Nara Shikaku whispered back, looking into Inoue's gaze as if looking at a dead man. As for saving people, Juquan could even break the Vajra chain easily, and there was no need for them to do more. This level, Yi Kang repeated a little speechlessly. Looking at those rock pillars that were more than 1 person thick, the metallic luster emitted on them told Yi Kang that its hardness was not as simple as ordinary rock. This level of earth-done ninjutsu is actually described as this level. For a while, Yi Kang's beautiful eyes widened, and all her eyes were on Juquan, and she was even more curious about what this man would do. Want to kill me? It's really naive, hee. Juquan shook his head and said, and then as if thinking of something, he laughed inexplicably. It's no wonder that Juquan laughs. People like Inoue who can't see the situation clearly can become the elders of Yenian Village. No wonder the strength of Yenian Village is getting weaker and weaker. Do you dare to be tough when you die? Tuden Rock Pillar Gun. Quote. Inoue quickly followed the seal, ready to kill Juquan on the spot. As before, another rock pillar rises from the ground. But this time, the front end of the rock pillar was very sharp, really like a spear. Under the urging of Inoue chakra, this sharp rock pillar spear quickly grew from the ground and stabbed obliquely towards the head of Jukwon. Overlord color domineering. Jukwon's eyes widened slightly, condensing all the overlord colored domineering energy together. An invisible momentum instantly attacked Inoue. This is also a trick newly come up by Jukwon, and the overlord color domineering is very suitable for cleaning up small minions, such as ordinary people, lower patients, and even medium patients. However, if it is replaced by upper patients, the effect will be greatly reduced, and it can only play a deterrent effect, and it will not be able to stun it at all. So this time, Jukwon had a whim and released all the overlord colored domineering energy at one target. Poof! Inoue only felt a heart-palpitating gust, completely enveloping himself. After he suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood, the whole person was suddenly startled, and then fell straight down. Due to the loss of chakra's urging, the sharp stone pillar gun also suddenly stopped a centimeter in front of Jukwon's eyes. Jukwon opened his eyes and observed, and found that Inoue's heart had been cracked by the overlord-colored domineering chi, and he couldn't live for a few seconds. What the hell did you do? Inoue covered his heart and asked with a horrified expression. As a quasi-shadow level Inoue, he knows the situation in his body very well, and he can clearly feel that his heart has ruptured. But Inoue really didn't understand. Jukwon obviously didn't make a seal, just glared at him. Why? Still don't understand. It comes down to being too weak and not yet aware of being weak. Quote. Jukwon curled the corners of his mouth and smiled, stretched his waist, and prepared to get out of the rock pillar prison. Haha, my rock pillar is extremely hard, you will never be able to escape. Seeing this, Inoue knew that he would not live long, as if he had forgotten his fear, and said with a sinister smile with his last breath. Is that what you said? After Jukwon finished speaking, he smashed the stone pillar cage with a wave of his hand, and Yun came out of it lightly. What? Inoue looked at his rock pillar prison in disbelief, which was destroyed so easily. In the next second, he finally couldn't hold on, completely lost his vitality, and his eyes were wide open, as if he couldn't be blinded. Wouldn't you? Elder Inoue is a quasi-shadow level powerhouse. Quote. He just glared, and Elder Inoue died. The rock pillar prison was actually destroyed so easily. The black-robed 9 springs killed people in our rock. I wonder what Lord Tsuchikage will do. Gradually, some onlookers whispered. Onoki naturally heard these discussions, but he was also helpless. As a Tokage, Onoki can naturally clearly feel that Jukwon did not use any technique, not even chakra fluctuations, but really killed Inoue only with momentum. Koizumi just glared at Inoue, and Inoue died. Single quote. Although this sounds incredible, the truth is happening right in front of you, and people can't help but believe it. I'm really sorry, let you see the joke, dispose of the body of this sinner in Yenian village, and then I will personally sign the contract on behalf of Yenian village. Onoki glanced at Jukwon with some solemnity. In order not to make any more trouble, he still decided to complete the next thing himself. Because Onoki believes that the strength that Jukwon possesses is definitely much more than that. Moreover, the power that Jukwon is currently showing is enough for him to be careful. As for Jukwon blowing up Yenian village and killing the elders of Yenian village in public, Onoki selectively ignored the matter and never mentioned it again. Compared to the situation in Union village, their Yenian village is simply much luckier. As for Inoue, I'm sorry, he is no longer an elder, but a sinner in Yenian village. No one said anything about Onoki's seemingly cowardly approach, and no one felt that it was wrong. It seems that his approach is the most normal approach. The rumored black-robed Jukwon, don't you have to kill people? Yi Kang's gaze was firmly fixed on Jukwon, and he asked unconsciously in a low voice. It was also the first time she had seen such a shocking way to kill, and just by virtue of her momentum, she had shocked a quasi-shadow level powerhouse. Hands on. Lord Jukwon really wants to move, but it is far more terrifying than this. Quote. Nara Shikaku replied with trepidation. Although the scene in front of him was also shocking, it was only killing one person. Compared to Jukwon, who had destroyed the entire black market 120 miles away before, that was called terror. The mushroom cloud rising above the black market is still fresh in Nara's memory. With the shock of Juquan, the ceremony of signing the peace treaty began to proceed in an orderly manner. During this period, Juquan also felt a probing gaze, followed the gaze, but saw a woman looking at herself from time to time. Dark green coiled hair, orange bangs dyed on both sides. Shouldn't this woman be Yi Kang? Juquan suddenly remembered that this woman should have been betrayed by Sand Yin in the original work, and then killed by the people of Mist Yin. Could it be that because of his own change in the misty hidden village, Yi Kang did not repeat the mistakes of the past? Then Your Excellency Juquan, what do you think of this distribution? When it was about to end, Onoki asked aloud, interrupting Koizumi's thoughts. I am only responsible for ensuring that the contract is signed, and you are free to see the content of the contract. Juquan came back to his senses and said very casually. Then everyone's opinions will be agreed, and an alliance will be formally reached in the future, and we have prepared a dinner party, and please be sure to appreciate it. Until the contract was signed, seeing that Juquan did not express any opinions, Onoki was finally relieved, so he invited according to etiquette. At this time, the sky has gradually darkened, and a bright moon hangs in the sky. Since Onoki invited as Tsuchikage, Sunahide and the Konoha emissary group, who had already signed the peace treaty, naturally wanted to give Onoki a face. Lord Tsuchikage, the four tails broke through the seal of the human pillar force and ran out. Just as the group was about to go to the dinner, a ninja broke in a panic and reported. What? Hearing this, Onoki stood up nervously and hurried outside. Boom! Immediately afterwards, a huge roar sounded from outside, sandwiched between the sounds of ninja fighting and the cries of civilians. Onoki walked outside, watching the hill-like four tails raging in the village, and cursed a little angrily. At noon before, Yenian village had just been bombed 10 areas, which may be the result of the mercy of Juquan's subordinates. Not many people died, but the buildings were damaged a lot. Faced with this situation, Onoki endured. But now, the lethality caused by the four tails is too great, and its exclusive melting can easily take away the life of a rock ninja. I have to say that in the early stage of Hokage, the disasters brought by the tailed beasts were indeed terrifying, and if you wanted to subdue them, you might often need to pay a shadow, as well as the lives of many ninjas. Lord Tokage, maybe you can entrust Lord Juquan to help. Just when Onoki was worried, Nara Shikahisa next to him reminded him loudly. Your Excellency Juquan, can you accept our Yenian's entrustment? Onoki's eyes lit up after hearing this, and he hurriedly asked. As long as you can pay the price, of course I can accept the commission. If you subdue the tailed beast, 100 million taels will be fine. Juquan thought about it and said with a smile on his face. 100 million taels, this price is quite high. With the current state of my Yenian village, I really can't take so much. I wonder if the price is likely to be lower. Quote. Onoki thought of Iwahido's finances and asked with a bitter face. As for the behavior of fooling Juquan to make a move first, and then defaulting on the debt, Onoki didn't dare to think about it. Who knows if there are any other whole cards in Juquan that are useless. In case of moving to Yenian village, I am afraid that the loss will be even greater. Lower price. It's okay, cheap and cheap, 30 million taels can be done. Quote. Juquan smiled and replied magnanimously. The price of 100 million taels is to subdue the four-tailed uniform and return it to Iwane village. During this period, Juquan also had to be careful not to kill the four tails. But if it is a price of 30 million taels, Juquan doesn't have to worry about it, although it is enough to let go and kill the four tails. 30 million taels. Onoki rubbed his ears in disbelief. This price gap is too big, which is equivalent to a direct threefold discount. Originally, Onoki had asked what the difference was, but Shio obviously wouldn't leave him time. The blow of the four tails melts down, and it will cause a wide range of damage. Every second it dragged on, more Iwa Shinobu died. 30 million taels is no problem. I have heard a little about Your Excellency's rules. This is half of the deposit. Please make a move as soon as possible. Onoki said that he no longer hesitated, and immediately handed over a deposit of 15 million taels and formally applied to Juquan for entrustment. Then entrust the deal. Juquan accepted the money, smiled slightly, and the figure suddenly disappeared. Immediately afterwards, he suddenly appeared in front of the four tails. Roar! The four tails were roaring, completely oblivious to the appearance of a human under their feet. I said, Shio, do you have any last words? Juquan raised his head and looked at the four-tailed face that was barely a monkey face and asked. Human. The most annoying human is to call me Four Tails, but I am the Monkey King. Quote. The Four Tails roared angrily, and the two big hands shot straight towards Juquan. Boom. Juquan didn't even dodge, directly grabbed Shio's finger and threw it towards the mountain outside Yenian village. The huge body of the Four Tails crashed into the mountain, and the mountain was instantly shattered, emitting a deafening crashing sound. Gee, this is really the lowest version of the Monkey King I've ever seen. Seeing this, Juquan commented with a serious face. He had long heard that the Four Tails in the Hokage were based on the Monkey King of Chinese mythology. But now it seems that the Four Tails, whether in strength or appearance, are all weak. And it looks more like an orangutan than a monkey. How so? Everyone looked at Juquan in shock. That's a tailed beast. Just dumped out like that. Yi Kang looked at Juquan even more curiously, and she finally understood what Nara Shikahisa said, do it. Lord Juquan really wants to move, but it is far more terrifying than this. The meaning of this sentence is up. However, the most shocking thing was Shio, who got up from the cracked mountain and looked towards Yenian village with some confusion for a while. This is the first time it has been thrown out by a human who wants to throw garbage. Melt chakra mode. Seeing Juquan rushing over again, Shio hurriedly released his unique chakra coat. The high-temperature lava instantly wrapped around the whole body of the Four Tails, forming a lava armor. Not only does it enhance its defense, but it is even extremely lethal. Can melt everything that comes into contact. It's too bad, I can't fight close combat now, it's really worthy of being a tailed beast, and the temperature is much higher than my scorching. Yi Kang looked at Juquan, who rushed towards the Four Tails, wanting to see how this man would react. As a human being, your power is indeed great, but my melting can melt everything, you can't touch me at all, it's better to die obediently. The Four Tails roared furiously, and at the same time rushed towards the Nine Springs very confidently. The Nine Tails don't dare to say that in front of me, I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Juquan said lightly, and then stretched out his fist to face the Four Tails. Boom! A circular wave of chi, centered on the two, spread out to the surroundings instantly. The flying sand and rocks almost made the onlookers unable to open their eyes. Actually caught my fist. You mentioned the Nine Tails just now, are you the Nine Tails Pillar Force? Quote. The Four Tails were horrified to find that no matter how hard they used, they were blocked by Juquan's fist, and they couldn't go any further. Moreover, Juquan's fist was burned by lava, and although it made a nourishing sound from time to time, it did not look burned at all. Such a scene made Shio can't help but suspect the identity of Juquan. However, even human pillar power cannot have such strength and defensive capabilities. No, it's not only the Nine Tails, but also the Three-Tailed Chakra, but none of them themselves are in your body, what the hell are you? Mio felt it carefully, and asked again in horror. Speaking of which, the Three-Tailed was more arrogant than you at that time, but now its grave grass is more than 2 meters tall. Juquan slowly walked over to the Four Tails and said with a terrifying smile on his face. What? Tailed beast Jade. Quote. At first, Shio didn't know what the grave grass meant, and then reacted, which is the rhythm that said that Mio was dead. So the Four Tails opened their mouths, and a shot of Tailed Beast Jade instantly condensed and attacked Juquan. Tailed Beast Jade. Juquan did not dodge, but chose to also use the Tailed Beast Jade to deal with the attack. Because he still has Yenian village behind him, if he lets this Tailed Beast Jade of the Four Tails blow up Yenian village, then the commission he accepted would be meaningless. Boom. In the blink of an eye, the attacks of both sides had already collided fiercely, and two huge Tailed Beast Jade violently impacted. The aftermath of the collision between the Tailed Beast Jade and the Tailed Beast Jade spread, and the originally flat ground below was forced into a basin. Speaking of which, the Nine-Tailed Chakra is indeed very large. Obviously they are all the same size Tailed Beast Jade, but the amount of chakra contained in it is completely different. The Tailed Beast Jade emitted by the Four Tails, after consuming for a while, was obviously unsupported, and then collapsed. On the other hand, the Tailed Beast Jade emitted by Juquan only shrunk in a circle, but it still rushed towards the Four Tails without decreasing. Roar! It was already impossible for the four tails to dodge, and he could only carry the blow abruptly with the chakra coat, but it seemed that he did suffer a lot of internal injuries. You are indeed too weak in the tailed beast, I am too lazy to absorb it. Juquan pouted and said, walking towards the four tails step by step. The 9 tails are absorbed because chakra is large in number and resilient, and the 3 tails are absorbed because of their strong defense. But the 4 tails, it is also good at melting, and for Juquan, it does not play any role in increasing the amplitude at all. What do you mean? The 4 tails took 2 steps back with some fear. As a tailed beast, I don't know how many years, for the first time in the past, it had a sense of fear of death. What else can it mean? Of course it is to kill you. Juquan explained as a matter of course, and under his smiling face was a fist ready to strike. Your Excellency Juquan, please show mercy to your subordinates. Onoki hurriedly came out to stop it. He calculated that he could see it. Juquan said to kill, then he could definitely kill Shio. But if the 4 tails die, then their Yenian village will have 1 less war weapon, which is a bit more than worth the loss. This is not okay. The commission has been reached. The remuneration of 30 million taels is as simple as directly killing the 4 tails. If you want to ensure that the 4 tails are alive, it is equivalent to increasing the difficulty of the task, then it is 100 million taels. Juquan was also not in a hurry, and explained with a smile. Sorry, I really can't understand what your excellency means. Why is it cheaper to kill the 4 tails than not to kill the 4 tails? Onoki asked puzzled. At first he thought that Juquan was deliberately making things difficult, but after thinking about it carefully, he found that Juquan had no reason to make things difficult for him. But then again, shouldn't the price of killing the 4 tails be more expensive than the price of defeating the 4 tails? How did you get to Juquan, but the other way around? In fact, not only did Onoki have questions, but even everyone present looked at Juquan curiously, hoping that he could give an answer. I think it's easy to kill the 4 tails, but if you want to subdue the 4 tails while also ensuring its life, it will be much more troublesome. After all, I have to carefully control the strength of the shot, otherwise if you are not careful, it may die. Juquan explained seriously, his tone extremely serious. It's just that this sentence sounds like a bit boastful to others. Although the rumored black-robed Juquan is indeed very strong, even stronger than the 4 tails. But the 4 tails are tailed beasts after all. Isn't it a kitten and puppy at home, or a careless beast that may kill the tailed beast? No matter how strong Juquan is, at least he will have to go through a fierce battle to kill the 4 tails. Although everyone thought so, no one dared to say it. After all, they were not even as good as the 4 tails. I know you don't believe it, but that's the way it is, like. Looking at everyone's skeptical eyes that were obviously unbelieving, Juquan still decided to come up with evidence and convince them on the spot. So Juquan raised his fist containing 80% of his power, and smashed it towards the 4 tails very casually. To others, it was really a very casual punch, even a bit like a joke. But the phrase, I have never faced Juquan, and I never know how terrifying Juquan really is not a joke. At least in the eyes of the 4 tails, this fist is full of death, making it impossible to dodge no matter how it dodges. Nope, the 4 tails only had time to roar, and then they were hit by their fists. The mountain-like body suddenly fell silent, and then smashed heavily on the ground. What is the situation? Could it be that the 4 tails were hit by illusion and fainted? Seeing this scene, a ninja finally asked curiously. Onoki was startled, as if he thought of something, and suddenly ran to the 4 tails who had fallen. After checking it, Onoki glanced at Juquan in disbelief, then looked down again and examined it more carefully. Really dead. Quote. Finally, Onoki raised his head a little hesitantly, and looked at Juquan's gaze again, full of fear. Really dead. It's obviously such a casual punch. How could it be? But the 4 tails do look lifeless. A ninja boldly approached the 4 tails and gently patted its corpse, only to find that his entire skin was sunken. That's right, not only is it dead, but the internal organs of the 4 tails have all been shaken into paste. Seeing this, Onoki explained, which was why he couldn't believe it just now. Because Juquan's punch not only killed the 4 tails, but also shattered all the organizations within it. How great was the power required? Although Onoki is not a physical ninja, he can also calculate approximately. You see, I accidentally killed it, but the mission was completed. Juquan spread out his hands and proved what he had said before. For a while, everyone looked at Juquan with a complicated expression, not knowing what to say at all. Before, they originally thought that Juquan was just boasting, but they didn't expect that the four tails were really killed by a punch. And that punch didn't use any chakra, it really looked like a very random punch. Understood, Your Excellency's honorarium will be offered later. Onoki can only admit it at this time, although the four tails are dead, leaving Iwayne village without a powerful war weapon. However, everything can be thought of as good, at least the four tails died quickly, and did not bring too many losses to Yenian village. Moreover, in the handling of this matter, Onoki will never be vague, never mention what should not be mentioned, and absolutely cannot argue about what should not be argued. Otherwise, it would not be wise to offend Juquan, who is more terrifying than the tailed beast. As a result, the honorarium that should have been paid was paid as usual, and the dinner party that should have been carried out went on as usual. It's just that during this period, everyone inexplicably became more in awe of Juquan. The scene of killing the tailed beast with that punch is afraid that these ninjas will never forget it for the rest of their lives. Since then, the legend left by Juquan has been filled in with a lot of color. After the dinner, Onogi's invitation to stay overnight was declined, and the Konoha emissary group and the Sand emissary group were ready to leave. Since the mission of this trip has been completed, and after the signing of the peace treaty, the Third Shinobi War has come to an end. So along the way, everyone didn't have that tense atmosphere, but talked and laughed. Then Your Excellency Juquan, our Cheyenne will also leave. If you have the opportunity, welcome to come to Cheyenne as a guest. At a fork in the road, Yi Kang bowed slightly goodbye. Of course, what Yi Kang said about being a guest is actually more just polite words. After all, the power displayed by Juquan is too strong. If Sha Yin also makes trouble, I am afraid that the end will not be better than Yan Yin. Although it is not a sincere invitation, if someone entrusts me, I will still go to Cheyenne. Juquan also heard Yi Kang's kind words, so he decided to scare her. Delegate, Yi Kang immediately took the bait after hearing this, and looked at Juquan with some puzzlement. She didn't understand what was the relationship between the commission and whether Juquan went to Sandyin or not. For example, someone paid a high price and entrusted me to go to Cheyenne to do a little destruction. Juquan curled the corners of his mouth and explained with a smile. Hee. Please don't make such a horrible joke with Your Excellency Juquan, we have already signed a peace treaty. Yi Kang eased the tension on his face with laughter, and replied in a calm tone as much as possible. At this time, she finally understood the meaning of Juquan's words, but cold sweat also spread all over her body. As Juquan said, if someone specifically entrusts Juquan to destroy Cheyenne, that would be a real disaster for Sha Yin. Although I live in Konoha, I am not under the jurisdiction of Konoha, so the peace treaty you signed is invalid for me. Juquan reminded with a smile, and the atmosphere gradually became terrifying. I really wish there wasn't that day. Quote, Yi Kang looked left and right in a little panic, hoping to calm his somewhat panicked heart. In her opinion, if Juquan really descended on Cheyenne village, I am afraid that no one in the entire Cheyenne would be able to stop the power of Juquan. Let's go. Juquan looked at Yi Kang's pretty face that became nervous, felt that the bad taste was satisfied, and then turned around and embarked on the return journey. Lord Yi Kang, what can I do about this? It wasn't until Juquan walked away that the ninja of the Sand Hidden Messenger group asked. Compared to the nervous Yi Kang, the performance of these sand ninja is actually more unbearable, and they have long been frightened and pale. When Juquan was still here before, they didn't even dare to say a word. Let's go back to Cheyenne first. Yi Kang thought about it and did not answer positively. For the possibility mentioned by Juquan, Yi Kang was also very distressed. If Sha Yin was really targeted by Juquan, she couldn't think of any way to deal with it. As for the war weapon that released Sand Hide, didn't you see that the four tails were killed by one punch? What are they doing with a tail? Is it funny? On the other hand, there have long been a number of bounty ninjas who have been ambushed on the way back to the Sand Hidden Messenger group. Boss, when do you start? A ninja with a scar on his face asked the captain of this operation. When Sha Yin's people completely enter the ambush circle, we will start together and kill Yi Kang first. The captain of the bounty ninja ordered, looking at the group of sand envoys slowly walking in the distance, with a hideous smile on his face. Juquan glanced back at the direction where the sand-hidden messenger group left, and seemed to have found something very interesting. The bounty ninja who ambushed Sand Yin had already been clearly perceived by him. The combat power of the sand-hidden messenger group will definitely not be able to match those bounty ninjas. Lord Juquan, is there a situation? Nara Shikahisa noticed Koizumi's movements and stopped and asked. Nothing, keep walking. Juquan smiled and did not explain the situation, but the speed of rushing slowed down a lot. For the attack on Cheyenne, he will not take the initiative to rescue. Rushing to save irrelevant people, Juquan didn't have the leisure to do this kind of thing, even if Yi Kang was a very beautiful woman. However, as long as Yi Kang is not stupid, she will definitely take the initiative to come and ask for help, and then it will be another commission. The other side, the sand-hidden messenger group has stepped into the trap circle. Once the trap is triggered, it is ready to start at any time. Bounty Captain Miyamoto's eyes narrowed and he ordered the ninjas who were ambushed around him. Understood. All the ninjas had already entered the combat state and answered in unison. Since he had never thought of an ambush, coupled with the intimidation before walking in the 9 springs, the sand-hidden messenger group stepped into the enemy's trap without knowing it. Shish. At this time, a sand ninja touched a transparent silk thread and made a subtle sound. Not good, there is an ambush. Yi Kang looked along the silk thread and saw several detonation charms hidden in secret. Boom. Immediately afterwards, all the detonators were detonated, emitting a cracking sound. The 2 sand ninjas, who were caught off guard, were instantly taken away by the detonation charm. The rest of the people were not fatally injured because they dodged in time, but they were also affected by the aftermath of the explosion. Do it, Miyamoto gave an order, and all the ninjas who had been in ambush for a long time appeared in an instant. Lord Yi Kang, it seems that we can't return to Cheyenne. A sand ninja covered his injured arm and said angrily. There were at least a dozen bounty ninjas on the opposite side, many of whom were upper ninjas. On their side, there were only 7 people, and 2 died. The remaining 5 people, Yi Kang was not harmed because of his strong strength. The other 4 shinobi were all more or less injured, and fighting in such a situation, the situation was really not optimistic. It's already some distance away from Yenian village, it's too late to go to Yenian for help. Yi Kang quickly thought of the strategy, and suddenly remembered something, pointed to the direction where Juquan left, and said, Juquan just separated from us, we hurried over and entrusted him to help. Quote. Understood. The remaining sand ninjas answered in unison, although just now they were still worried that Juquan might target Sand Hidden Village because of the commission, and thus they were a little afraid of Juquan. But right now, they don't care about any fear, and Juquan has become their only hope to survive. Want to run? Great breakthrough. Quote. Miyamoto quickly borrowed the seal in his hand, and a large whirlwind rushed straight towards Yi Kang. Great fireball. Yi Kang was forced to stop and fight back, and a large fireball crashed into the whirlwind, and the two cancelled each other out and scattered, causing a sea of fire to form around them. Water escape. Water dragon technique. Water blade slash. Wind escape wind cut. Tudin, the earth flow river. The other bounty ninjas were not vegetarians, and just when the Yekora team stopped, various ninjutsu followed. The sand ninja who had injured his arm before, because he could not make a seal, was instantly killed by all kinds of ninjutsu. Let's go. Seeing that another shinobu died, Yi Kang knew that now was not the time to grieve because of the death of his teammate, and hurriedly ordered not to fight. Lord Yi Kang, let's stop the enemy first, you go to ask for help as soon as possible. The remaining 3 shinobi looked at each other, and they finally made a decision to protect Yi Kang and go first. As for whether they can wait for rescue, they have no extravagant hopes. It is better to survive one than to die without knowing all of them. No, once I'm gone, you'll die faster. Yi Kang thought about it and rejected the proposal. We are all injured, now it is your fastest speed, you go, we still have a glimmer of hope, if you don't go, we will really die. The other shinobu, while resisting the flying kuwu, said with difficulty. You guys, hold on, I'll definitely be back as fast as I can. Quote. Seeing the determination of his teammates, Yi Kang finally nodded in agreement. She no longer hesitated, but used the fastest speed in her life to rush towards the direction of Jukwon. Stop her! Miyamoto saw Hakura fleeing and hurriedly ordered the nearest bounty ninja to intercept her. However, under the desperate cover of those 3 sand ninjas, Yi Kang was still allowed to escape. It's a little interesting. Sure enough, I took the initiative to send it to the door, and it just so happened that there was a lack of a maid at home. Jukwon curled the corners of his mouth and said to Shi Yan in front of him, as well as the trio of pig deer butterfly, I still have some things to do, you guys go back first. Quote. Yi Kang, who was coming, did not know that her future fate was so judged by Jukwon. Yi Kang's speed was not slow, and after another 5 minutes, her figure appeared in Jukwon's line of sight. How did you come back? Jukwon smiled and asked knowingly. Your Excellency Jukwon, we were attacked on the way back, and we ask Your Excellency to help. Yi Kang was now very anxious, and said straight to the point. 1 second later, her teammates are more dangerous. Therefore, she must reach the task commission with Jukwon as quickly as possible. No problem, as long as you can pay enough price, I can help you do anything. As for this kind of thing that you were attacked, it belongs to the protection mission, it is a reward of 10 million, you understand the rules. Jukwon said with a smile. I don't have that much money with me now, so I wonder if I can ask you to help first. When he returns to Cheyenne Village, the reward of 10 million taels will definitely be provided. Quote. Yi Kang asked with a somewhat embarrassed face, and his expression became more and more anxious. At first, hearing that only 10 million honorarium was needed, Yi Kang was relieved. Because Hakura is known as the hero of Suna, he is also a very good ninja in his own right, often performing high-risk, high-reward missions. So with a reward of 10 million, she can naturally get it. But in the end, hearing Jukwon say the rules, this couldn't help but make Yi Kang frown. The rule of Jukwon accepting the task commission, Yi Kang had also heard before, and he needed to pay half of the deposit first, that is, 5 million taels. But Yi Kang is now in the state of performing tasks, who will carry so much money with them when performing tasks. Rules are rules, breaking rules is not fun, so, think about what other valuable things. Jukwon said unhurriedly, but his attitude was clear, and the rules could not be broken. Something valuable. Yi Kang kept churning on his body, only some kunai, shuriken, a more valuable detonation charm, and a sealing scroll. Add these things together, and it is worth hundreds of thousands of taels to survive. Suddenly, Yi Kang thought of a possibility, and asked with some uncertainty, valuable things, my body. Does it count? Quote. Of course, if you are willing to treat yourself as a reward, of course, you can do it. Jukwon smiled, like a big bad wolf eating rabbits. I understand, after the fact, I will do as promised. The body is handed over to you, anyway, now I can't run, you can also be considered to have received a deposit, right? Quote. Yi Kang laughed miserably, the corners of his mouth full of bitterness. It turned out that this man had taken a fancy to her body, and bought it for 10 million. The most infuriating thing is that she still has to sell, otherwise Jukwon will definitely not make a move. Then the deal is done, let's go. Jukwon smiled slightly and nodded in confirmation. Hearing Jukwon's confirmation, Yi Kang put away the bitterness in her heart, because her teammates were still waiting for rescue. 10 minutes later, the two came to the place where the sand-hidden messenger group was attacked before, and the battle here was just coming to an end. With the death of the last shinobu, everything returned to calm. Abominable, sure enough, didn't catch up. Quote. Yi Kang saw that the 3 teammates who had covered her before were now bruised and fell to the ground, without exception, all of them were sacrificed. Gee, the scene is very tragic. Jukwon looked at the situation around him, not in a hurry at all, wanting to see what Yi Kang would do. Haha, she still dares to come back. Exactly, we went to find her. Wait, who is that person next to Yi Kang? Dressed in black, wouldn't it be? That's right, that's him. Quote. Black Robe 9 Springs, that man with a reward of 10 billion. How could he be here? Before Yi Kang could speak, the bounty ninjas started to make a noise first. No way, to say who is the most famous in the black market, it is naturally the Black Robe Jukwon. The reward that has been added to 10 billion is not a joke, but a symbol of strength. Your Excellency Jukwon, I want to change the protection mission to a hunting and killing mission, is that okay? Yi Kang suddenly asked in a low mood. Temporary changes to the delegated task, but at a markup. Juquan nodded and reminded, kindly. He naturally knew what Yi Kang was thinking, nothing more than wanting to kill all these bounty ninjas. No problem, but remember to stay alive. Yi Kang smiled bitterly. If Juquan wanted her body, even if the price is raised, where can it be added? Wait, Your Excellency Juquan, we have no grudge with you, and I don't think there is any need to resolve it by force. Quote. Miyamoto's face was shocked and hurriedly stopped. He never imagined that he was just taking on an assassination mission, and he could actually attract the legendary black-robed Juquan. If he had known this, he would never have taken on this task. I'm really sorry, the commission has been reached, so you have been included in my hunting list. Don't be afraid, it will be over soon. Juquan apologized without sincerity, but his hand did not stop at all. Ah, no, don't kill me. To deal with these dozen bounty ninjas, Juquan did not need to use techniques such as tailed beast jade at all. It's just that ordinary arashi feet, finger guns, and extremely fast shaving can easily bury these bounty ninjas. However, Juquan did not kill cleanly, leaving Scarface and Miyamoto alive. Don't kill me, I'll say anything. Miyamoto and Scarface were really scared, and begged for mercy in fear. Seeing the bounty ninjas who were still alive before, dying in front of them one after another, they didn't think of resisting. But Juquan's movements were too fast, and before he could react, the person was killed. Pity those bounty ninjas, who didn't have time to unleash a single ninjutsu until they died. As if they were not ninjas at all, but ordinary civilians, who could only be slaughtered at will. Who the hell entrusted you to attack our Shahid? Yi Kang asked with some resentment, and he had the posture of going to be tortured for interrogation if he refused to say anything. The person who entrusted us is your Iman Harado of Shahi. Bounty ninjas in the black market are not as faithful as ninjas in the ninja village. There was no need to force at all, Miyamoto took the initiative to explain. He spoke so fast that he was afraid that he would be killed if he spoke slowly. Impossible. Although Elder Harado values power, he is also the high-ranking member of our Sand Hidden group. How could he arrange outsiders to assassinate the ninja of the Sand Hidden Messenger group? Quote. Yi Kang subconsciously chose not to believe it, and retorted. It's really him. It's really him. In fact, our target is mainly you. The Sand Hidden Messenger group is only incidental. Don't believe you see, this is a certificate of entrustment. Quote. Scarface was afraid that Yi Kang would not believe it, and hurriedly added on the side. After that, he also took out a black market exclusive power of attorney. How is it possible? Yi Kang took the power of attorney, and after reading it, he said to himself for a while. The signature of the client on it is the name of Iman Harado. Due to Yi Kang's identity, there are many high-level people who usually come into contact, so she can see the authenticity at a glance about the handwriting of the high-level people of Cheyenne. And the handwriting of this power of attorney is indeed from the hand of Iman Harado. The most ironic thing is that the target of the task delegation is indeed only Yi Kang. But it also says, if necessary, the people of the Sand Hidden Messenger group can be killed together. However, she survived, and those teammates died. It seems that your rise has made the top of Cheyenne dissatisfied. Juquan looked like he was watching the play, and interjected happily. Ha, the hero of Shahid. It is indeed ironic enough to be chased and killed by the high level of his own ninja village, and also killed his teammates. Quote. Yi Kang shook his head weakly, sat on the ground in discouragement and said. In order to get rid of her, the high level of Cheyenne actually went to such great lengths, and even sacrificed a few more shinobu's lives, which really made her unable to figure out why. Because of your existence, you have seriously hindered their rights. Juquan seemed to be able to read minds, and Yi Kang's doubts were broken in one sentence. As a civilian ninja, Hakura is known as the hero of Sand Hidden Village by relying on his own abilities. It can be said that among the civilian ninjas, the most influential is Yi Kang, which is very similar to the original Watergate. However, unlike the Fate, Watergate belonged to the faction of the third generation of Hokage, and was later recommended as the fourth generation Hokage. However, Yi Kang did not belong to any faction of Sha Yin, so the influence she had would naturally cause the jealousy of the top level of Sha Yin. Then driven by power, it is also extremely normal for a radical Saiyan high level to want to get rid of Yi Kang. Well, since the truth of the matter is clear, then I will completely complete the task. After Juquan finished speaking, he turned his head to look at Miyamoto and Scarface, the two last living mouths. Everything we know has been said, please let us go. Being stared at like this by the legendary black-robed Juquan, Miyamoto and Scarface were almost scared and begged for mercy in a hurry. I never said I would let you go. Who let you be included in my hunting list, be a civilian in the next life? Koizumi smiled and waved his hand, making a goodbye gesture, and then gently kicked with Arashi's foot. A wave of chi instantly streaked across Miyamoto and Scarface's necks, and before they could react, their heads had already moved. The task you entrusted has been completed, are you ready to pay for it? Juquan retracted Arashi's posture and turned around to remind. Do you want me here? When I bury the bodies of my teammates, I will take care of them. The body is given to you. Quote. Yi Kenko said with a miserable laugh, wiped away the tears left unconsciously, and slowly walked to the side of those who had sacrificed Sand Shinobu. The teammates died tragically because of her, and the high level of Saiyan still wanted to get rid of her, and the village would definitely not be able to go back, and her own body. The body is also used as a task honorarium. Yi Kang, who was full of grey thoughts, felt that life was so grey for the first time. So she silently made a decision, or commit suicide, at least she can die innocently. Before you do something stupid, I need to tell you one thing, in fact, I can save your teammates. At this time, behind Yi Kang, the voice of the old god of Juquan suddenly sounded. Juquan decided to help Yi Kang resurrect those few shinobi, in fact, just to dispel the guilt in her heart, so that she could be a maid by her side more at ease. And those few sand ninja, the behavior of finally sacrificing their lives to cover Yi Kang, also won them a chance to be reborn. Although the high level of Shahid is not good, the ordinary ninja below is still good. What, is what you said true? But they are dead. Quote. When Yi Kang heard this, he turned around and asked. If they had just died and the bodies were still mostly intact, I would have been able to bring them back to life, but not the two who were blown up to slag by the detonator charm. Juquan explained with a smile, that relaxed demeanor, as if to resurrect these sand ninja, just eat and drink water. But how is it possible to do such a thing as resurrecting the dead? Yi Kang still asked a little suspiciously, even thinking that Juquan was joking with her again. However, hearing Juquan's extremely confident tone, she felt that this man might really be able to do it. You just need to tell me if you're willing to pay a bigger price to bring them back to life. Juquan did not explain more, but asked straight to the point. If you can really do it, you can pay whatever you want. Yi Kang, who had been in ashes, slightly ignited a glimmer of hope. If Juquan can really revive her teammates, it can be regarded as dispelling her guilt. As for what will happen to her in the end, she doesn't care anymore. Hehe, as you wish, the outer Tao reincarnation innate art. Juquan smiled slightly, walked next to those sand ninjas, and used the unique ability of the Eye of Reincarnation. With the use of the innate art of reincarnation, a chakra full of life energy shrouded these sand ninjas. I saw that these already dead shinobi were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The faint sound of breathing began to come from them. Gradually, their breathing became more and more steady, and even Shinobu's hand moved. All of this is a sign that these sand ninjas have come back to life. It's really alive, Yi Kang said in disbelief. His gaze looking at Juquan was full of shock. Although Yi Kang was already mentally prepared, she was still surprised to actually see this scene. This legendary man can really do it. If this matter gets out, I'm afraid the entire ninja world will go crazy. Well, in about a minute, they'll wake up. Juquan saw that it was almost the same, so he stopped the reincarnation innate technique, and Yun said lightly. At this time, Yi Kang had completely believed Juquan's words and waited quietly. Sure enough, a minute later, these sand ninjas opened their eyes one after another. Strange, am I not already dead? Lord Yi Kang, why are you here? Why is your excellency Juquan there? Quote, did we wait until rescue? No, I'm pretty sure I did die just now. These sand ninjas looked around in a foggy mind, and seemed to be surprised that they were still alive. It was His Excellency Juquan who saved you. Here's the thing. The resurrection of her teammates made Yi Kang's guilt completely disappear, so she told the whole story of what happened. How so? High level. Although I have known their faces for a long time, I didn't expect that they would actually be harmed together with the people of the village. After hearing what happened, these sand ninjas commented angrily. But most of them have families in the village, some old and some young. Even if they knew the truth about the attack, they could not do anything. Your commission has been completely completed, it's time to pay for it. Juquan curled the corners of his mouth and reminded with a smile. Got it, let's go. Yi Kang replied with a wry smile, secretly sighing that he should still come. After her teammates were resurrected, her guilt had disappeared, and now only discouragement towards the Sunahide high level remained. But fortunately, she no longer thinks about self-determination. Your Excellency Juquan, please let Lord Yi Kang go. The task reward you said earlier, we are willing to double, no. Is plus triple to you. Quote. Lord Yi Kang is a good man, please don't take him. If you insist on taking Lord Yi Kang, kill us. The sand ninja recovered from their anger at the high level, and suddenly thought of Yi Kang's consideration of himself as a reward for the task, so they pleaded one after another. No one has ever dared to rely on my account, do you want to break the contract? Although Juquan smiled faintly, a large-tailed beast jade had condensed in his hand. Although it was because of Yi Kang that Juquan revived these sand ninjas. However, if these sand ninja insist on blocking it, Juquan does not mind letting them die again. Well, I can't go back to Cheyenne village, otherwise this kind of thing will happen sooner or later, and following your Excellency Juquan is probably the best choice. In the end, it was Yi Kang who spoke, which made these sand ninjas give up the idea of dissuasion. Because she really didn't want to see her teammates just come back to life and die again. After bidding farewell to those sand ninjas, Yi Kang followed behind Juquan with a complicated expression. Where are we going now? Hotel. Quote. Seeing that he was going farther and farther, Yi Kang took the initiative to break the silent atmosphere and asked. Why go to the hotel, are you tired? Juquan did not stop, and laughed without turning his head. As agreed, my body. The body is already yours, is it still interesting to say this? Quote. Yi Kang stopped and said helplessly. Once when she looked up at the starry sky, she also fantasized that she would give herself completely to her future lover. But she never imagined that she would trade herself as a reward. You're right, now you're mine, so come and be my maid, and I'll settle the score for you. Juquan also stopped and said with a serious finger, at the beginning, you entrusted me to protect you, you wanted to be my maid for 1 year, and then change the task, so the price increase became 2 years, plus the resurrection of those sand ninja, and the price increase became 3 years. Wait, maid, quote. Yi Kang grasped the point and said with some doubts. What Juquan wanted was not her body. Body, of course it's a maid, I want to convert you into a reasonable labor, otherwise what do I want you to do? Juquan explained reasonably, and then suddenly realized, and laughed, do you think I will do something shameful to you? Your thoughts are so impure. I know. Yi Kang resisted the urge to spurt out a mouthful of blood, his shoulders shook, and he didn't know what to say. In the final analysis, she misunderstood this matter. Juquan only said that he would take her as a reward, but never said that he wanted to get her first time. In other words, maybe Juquan just asked her to do something, like the current maid. Then keep going. Kusin smiled honey and continued in the direction of Konoha. For Yi Kang, a tragic woman, Juquan did not want to get her body forcefully in a situation full of transactions, but wants to completely conquer her body and mind. Therefore, turning Yi Kang into a maid is only the first step on the road to Juquan's conquest. Due to the solution of Yi Kang's matter, there was a slight delay. In addition, Juquan was not in a hurry, and it was slow like an outing, so the two did not catch up with the people of the Konoha messenger group. By the time they returned to Konoha, it was already 3 days later. This is it. Juquan walked to the door of the restaurant and pointed to the room behind the restaurant and said. Very chic. Although Yi Kang felt a little surprised, he still praised symbolically. The reason for the surprise was simple, because the place where Juquan lived was too ordinary. She never thought that the legendary black-robed Juquan actually just lived in such a place. The location of the restaurant is not located in the bustling center of Konoha, but on the outermost periphery. If it weren't for the fact that there was a street outside the restaurant, Hakura would have thought that this place did not belong to Konoha. The restaurant itself is not large, there is a courtyard behind the shop, and there is a small two-story building on the other side of the yard, which is used for living. Then come in the future, your task is to serve tea and pour water, pinch your shoulders and legs, and clean up by the way, in short, everything that a maid should do, you are responsible. After Jukwon finished speaking, he opened the door with a smile. You're back, huh, is she? Xiaonan was drinking tea in the courtyard, and after hearing the voice, he looked at the door, but saw that Jukwon not only returned, but also brought a beautiful woman he didn't know. This is Yi Kang, because he can't pay the task honorarium, he has to pay my debts as a maid for 3 years. Jukwon smiled slightly and introduced it in a timely manner. The hero of Cheyenne, I have heard of this name for a long time, but I didn't expect to be a beauty. Xiaonan nodded and stretched out his jade hand to show friendliness, but said in an unusually cold tone. Jukwon could clearly feel that Xiaonan's body had begun to exude a faint vinegar intent. But in the face of this situation, he was not worried at all. Because for women, there is nothing that cannot be solved with one shot. If there is, then another shot. It's over, please advise me in the future. Yi Kang was not a weak little woman, not to be outdone, she stretched out her hand. When the hands of the two women clasped together, Jukwon seemed to see the sparks that flashed in their eyes from time to time. After dinner, Jukwon ordered Yi Kang to go to bed early. Only Xiaonan was still in the room, looking at Jukwon a little sourly. Why are you looking at me with that expression, are you jealous? Jukwon took a sip of tea and asked unhurriedly. In the face of the legendary Jukwon Excellency, it is normal to have a few women, I am only the fourth in line, where dare to be jealous? Xiaonan turned his face to the side very arrogantly, and replied duplicitously. No woman wants to share her man with other women, and Xiaonan is no exception. It's just that she herself is a latecomer, and before that, there were Tsunade, Yuyan, and Terumi. If you really do it, she can only be regarded as the fourth place. So under the premise that Tsunade didn't speak, she could only eat dry vinegar. You're wrong, there is also a Shizune next to Tsunade, in fact, it is also my woman, so you are the fifth. Jukwon mended the knife and deliberately reminded. Okay, I'm one more in the back row now. Xiaonan seemed to have been suddenly stabbed in his heart, and said full of resentment. She hadn't expected that the simple girl who followed Tsunade and looked stupid would actually be taken in by Jukwon. Do you know what I usually do to jealous women? Jukwon felt the resentment that seemed to be substance, so he asked with a honey smile. How? Xiaonan looked at the familiar terrifying smile and asked with some fear. Of course, until you don't have the strength to be jealous anymore. After Jukwon finished speaking, in Xiaonan's shocked gaze, he violently pounced. Yi Kang on the other side originally wanted to sleep early. But when the two people next door made a fuss, she couldn't sleep. Although he had never experienced anything between men and women, Yi Kang was not stupid and obviously knew what was happening next door. At the same time, Yi Kang also understood why Xiaonan felt a little vinegar when he first saw her. But now I know that these are useless, after all, the sound next door is too loud, which has seriously affected sleep. And Yi Kang couldn't run over to remind them to move a little smaller. This kind of thing, it's embarrassing to think about. So Yi Kang, who tossed and turned, decided to start counting the sheep, hoping to force himself to sleep. A sheep in a second, when she counted to 6,000 sheep, she clearly heard Xiaonan crying next door. In this regard, Jukwon said that he is a person who keeps his promises. Successfully fulfilled his previous vow, to make Xiaonan cry. I don't know how long it took, when the 10,000th sheep rushed past Yi Kang's heart. Xiaonan didn't even cry anymore, and the world finally quieted down completely. Coincidentally, Yi Kang finally got bored and slept deeply. Well, it's time to have some fun. Jukwon changed his clothes again, looked in the direction of Cheyenne village, and curled the corners of his mouth to say to himself. Another glance at Xiaonan, who had fainted in the past, only her slightly red and swollen eyes could prove what kind of experience she had just had. Gently covered Xiaonan with a quilt, and Jukwon disappeared into the house with a flash. In the next second, the figure of Juquan appeared high in the air, flying straight towards Cheyenne village. Helping Yi Kang get rid of those high-level people was something that Juquan had planned long ago. Although Yi Kang didn't say anything, being assassinated by the village high-level seemed to have long become a knot in her heart. And what Juquan has to do now is to help Yi Kang completely open the hard knot and assassinate those high-level people, otherwise she may have to live with a mustard for the rest of her life. An hour later. Phew, fortunately, I left a breath on those sand shinobi before, otherwise I wouldn't have found Sand Yin village. Juquan looked at the Cheyenne village in front of him and wiped a handful of sweat that did not exist on his forehead. It only took him an hour to reach Cheyenne village, which was the result of his efforts to control his speed. Otherwise, if he is faster, he will break through the speed of sound, resulting in a powerful sonic boom, which I am afraid will wake up the entire Cheyenne village. First of all, find someone to ask where those high-ranking people live. Juquan smiled slightly, landed at the door of one of the surviving shinobi houses before, and knocked lightly on the door. 9. Your Excellency Juquan. Quote, Shinobu, who came to open the door, said with his eyes wide in surprise. The next thing is relatively simple, because the high level of Sha Yin is not benevolent first, so the ordinary sand shinobu below is naturally full of resentment. Juquan just simply explained his intentions, and before he could coerce and lure, that sand ninja drew a map on the spot. The map details the addresses of all the high-rise buildings in Cheyenne, especially the situation of the Iman Harato, and the records are carefully recorded, even where the toilet is marked. Being so hated by the ninjas at the bottom, this high level deserves to be a real failure. Juquan picked up the map and looked at it, suddenly feeling inexplicably ridiculous, and then left in that grateful gaze. Tonight, the high level of Cheyenne will be full of blood. In the early morning, Xiaonan was awakened by the sun, rubbed some slightly red eyes, and found that there was no Juquan figure in the room for a long time. So she cleaned up and prepared to go downstairs for some breakfast, but she didn't expect to run into Yi Kang. Breakfast is ready, let's eat some together. Yi Kang took the initiative to greet and fully executed what a maid should do. Thank you, did you see Juquan? Xiaonan was also not polite, sat straight on the chair, and asked while eating. After last night's events, her eyes were swollen with tears, and now how can she still have the mind to be jealous? It's better to eat more to restore your strength. I didn't see you, and didn't he stay with you last night? Yi Kang tilted his head and replied, revealing a provocative smile. The words were extremely ridiculous, as if mocking Xiaonan's cry last night. HMPH, you may not end up better than me. Xiaonan's face turned slightly red, and he snorted coldly in a low voice. She could naturally hear Yi Kang's tease, but she was not in a hurry at all. After all, falling into the hands of Juquan, I am afraid that Yi Kang will have only one end, that is, to be conquered. So after Xiaonan said a word, he didn't say more, time will tell. I'm just a maid, as long as I do what a maid should do, at least I won't be made crying at night like someone. Not to be outdone, Yi Kang replied, and also cited the incident of last night as an example. Bickering early in the morning, it looks like you're resting well. At this time, Juquan suddenly flashed into the room, stretched and said. Last night did make him a little tired, mainly in order not to cause a commotion in the entire Cheyenne village, he could only find one by one to assassinate. Otherwise, once it is discovered that Juquan caused killing in Cheyenne village, there will definitely be many Sha Shinobu who do not know the truth to come out to stop it. If Juquan kills those innocent sand ninja because of this incident, I am afraid that Yi Kang will not be easy, but will be even more sad. But now well, anyway, the top is dead, even if it is discovered, it doesn't matter. Where did you go last night? Xiaonan asked about you just now. Quote. Yi Kang asked curiously, but his eyes keenly found Juquan's fingers that were still stained with blood. Oh, I was bored last night, so I went around Cheyenne village. Juquan washed his hands by the pool and replied very normally. But this is not ordinary to Yi Kang, especially after seeing Juquan's method of killing people with a finger gun. It is also the same fingers will be stained with blood, plus Juquan personally admitted that he went to Cheyenne village. You're not going to kill Iman Harato, are you? Yi Kang thought of a possibility, and asked with some disbelief. You only guessed half right, but unfortunately there is no reward. Juquan picked up a piece of bread and threw it into his mouth, answering vaguely. Guess half right. So what else did you do? Yi Kang hurriedly asked. The entire high level of Cheyenne, except for the fourth generation of Wind Shadow and Chio and Kairozang, who have been reclusive, have all been exterminated by me. Juquan looked at Yi Kang and said lightly. The reason is very simple. There were many high-level people who participated in the assassination of Yi Kang. In addition to the soy sauce character of the fourth generation of Tsuchikage, that is, Chio and her brother Kaizo are in the matter, it also invisibly allows them to exchange their lives. For the rest, Juquan was too lazy to bother, and directly followed the marks on the map and killed them one by one. Wait, you're talking about extermination? Xiaonan grasped the point and asked halfway. Of course, the family should be tidy, and I should do good deeds and send them down to reunite together. Juquan swallowed the bread in his mouth and nodded and explained. In this regard, he will not be merciful and deliberately leave a curse. Since they have all been killed in people's homes, it is better to solve them all at once. Thank you. After a long time, Yi Kang exhaled heavily, looking at Juquan with a complicated expression. She knew that Juquan did this because of her, and after hearing that those high-ranking people were dead, her mood suddenly relaxed. At this moment, the shackles in Yi Kang's heart were completely opened, and a new life had just begun. When you sigh, clean up my house first. Juquan's faint voice sounded, interrupting Yi Kang's imagination at an untimely time. Got it. Yi Kang came back to his senses, thinking of his current maid status. He could only pick up a broom and mop and go to work in Juquan's bedroom resignedly. Oh my god, why is there so much water on this ground? Not long after, in the bedroom of Juquan next door, there was a burst of exclamations from Yi Kang. When Xiaonan heard this, his face turned red and he accelerated the speed of eating. She had also cleaned up the battlefield of Koizumi and Tsunade, and she also asked such questions. Here and now, just like then. It can be so similar. It was when drinking water, and the water cup accidentally spilled, just drag it clean. The corners of Juquan's mouth, who was in the living room, curled up, and answered in the direction of Yi Kang. Yes. Yi Kang looked at the suspicious water trail on the ground and muttered in a low voice. Suddenly, she remembered that this room was the battlefield of Juquan and Xiaonan last night. Other words, at this time, Yi Kang all understood, and his face was also full of redness, as if he was treating an enemy, and quickly cleaned up. It was also a morning, and Sha Yin's side was not calm. Feng Ying, who had a regular meeting in the morning, found that none of the high level of Cheyenne had arrived today, so he sent the dark department to various houses to inquire about the situation. The Wind, Lord Tsuchikage, big things are not good, Lord Iman Hirado, he was exterminated. Quote. Tsuchikage-sama, Elder Kuyono's family was also exterminated. Quote. My subordinate went to Elder Akita's house and found that, Elder Akita's house, it was also exterminated. Quote. 26 people in the land of the great race under the household, none of them are spared. Quote, quote. Hearing the returning dark departments, one after another, Feng Ying was shocked, and immediately went to the various high-level homes of Cheyenne to find out the situation. If you don't look at it, you don't know, and when you look at it, you are shocked, and all the high-level members of Cheyenne, including his clan, are not spared. According to statistics, more than 300 people were assassinated overnight, most of them ninjas. This number of people can already go to a war, but now they are assassinated overnight, which is definitely a heavy blow to Sha Yin. Who the hell? Wind Shadow slammed a punch on the table, and the solid wooden table broke in response. Lord Tsuchikage, in the current ninja world, if you can kill so many people silently, I am afraid that only one person can move. Chio, who heard the news, said that after the end of the 3 wars, she had gone into seclusion and no longer interfered in the political affairs of Sunahide village. But now that Cheyenne village is in such a big situation, she also has to go out of the mountain. Elder Chio meant to say, Black Robe 9 Springs. Quote. After such a reminder, Wind Shadow also calmed down and gradually guessed. That's right. I think that since he was able to quietly assassinate 100 people in Wuyin village and directly cause the coup incident in Wuyin village, then why couldn't he kill 300 people overnight? Chio nodded and said very solemnly. When this kind of thing happened, even she who was the elder of Cheyenne had a very headache. I have to say that if you are targeted by Juquan, it is really a very terrifying thing. But why did the black-robed Juquan target as Shang Sandyin? Wind Shadow sighed, his words full of helplessness. With so many people dead in Cheyenne village, what should I do? Find the black-robed Juquan to take revenge. If you do that, I'm afraid that more people will die. I think it is very likely that Yi Kang entrusted Juquan. After all, Yi Kang and those elders have not dealt with it, not to mention I heard that she was also murdered by those elders, but she was finally saved by Juquan. Hai Laozang lit a cigarette bag pot and analyzed reasonably. But as soon as the words fell, the entire conference room fell silent again. At present, in the entire Cheyenne village, there are only 4 generations of Wind Shadows left at the top, Chio and Kai Laozang. Everyone frowned and pondered how to deal with this matter. If it was really Yi Kang who commissioned Juquan, would there be a second time? In this way, Lord Wind Shadow will come forward to write a secret letter to test Yi Kang's style. With that child's personality, it should not be too desperate. After being silent for a long time, Chio didn't have any good strategy, so he could only propose a method that was the least solution. It stands to reason that the people of Cheyenne village were killed, and they should try their best to take revenge. But this matter was handled by Juquan, so they couldn't do this, they could only be soft. I understand, just do what Elder Chio wants, and I will write a secret letter now. Cage had no better way but to write a secret letter immediately according to Chio's meaning. Chapter 71. The secret letter of the village of Sand Hidden is delivered by a special ninja bird. Although the flight speed was fast, it was already night when it reached Konoha. Tisk. The ninja bird saw Hakura and let out a brief and anxious burst. Shouted, and then left the secret letter behind. This is the ninja bird of Sunahi. Yi Kang, who was cleaning the courtyard, saw this and accepted the secret letter, and it was a little strange that Sha Yin would deliver news to her. After opening the secret message, I found that it was Wind Shadow's notes. The content is not complicated, which roughly means that Juquan has killed all the high-ranking people involved in the assassination of Yi Kang. I hope that Yi Kang can calm her anger, and if she can return to Cheyenne village, then she can be directly promoted to the Elder of Cheyenne. The secret letter is also covered with a wind shadow, and only the seals of the sand-hidden Elder Chio and Kai Laozang remain, ensuring the authenticity of the secret letter. The elder who has been promoted to Cheyenne is in very good condition. Do you have the urge to go back? At this time, behind Yi Kang, there was a smiling voice of Juquan. To be honest, it's a little impulsive, but forget it, I'm tired of the political battles between the tops. Facing Juquan's sudden appearance, Yi Kang was not surprised, and replied in a calm tone. If she had not encountered the assassination incident, she would have happily accepted such appointment conditions when she saw them. However, after seeing the faces of the top officials, she really did not want to be involved in the political vortex anymore. For such an answer, Juquan smiled noncommittally and continued, "It's ready to open, it seems that there is already a guest waiting at the door." Quote, "Got it," Yi Kang replied, casually burning the secret letter to ashes and dissipating in the air. In front of the restaurant, the door of the shop was slowly pushed open, and the first thing that came into view was a yellow hair, which was the water gate. As the saying goes, good things do not go out, and bad things spread thousands of miles. The matter of Cheyenne village, so many people died overnight, it was impossible to hide it. Don't think that only Konoha has spies from other villages, and Sand Hidden village also has spies from Konoha. This kind of major news, in less than a day, has already spread throughout the ninja world, let alone Konoha. So Watergate came specifically to ask about the situation, lest when Konoha suddenly came like this. Yo, Watergate, rare customers. When Juquan saw the Watergate, he said hello without sincerity. You're welcome, I came today to ask something. Watergate sat on a chair by the bar and asked with a slightly nervous look. No wonder he was nervous, after all, everything Juquan did was getting bigger and bigger. Fortunately, Koizumi didn't do anything to Konoha, otherwise he really couldn't do anything about this Hokage. You ask, I'm in a good mood today, if you want to get information, a question can be as long as 100,000 tales. Juquan's eyes narrowed, and he said with his chin propped up in boredom. Although he had known this for a long time, the hand holding the water gate holding his wallet still tightened unconsciously, and asked, the high level of Cheyenne village and its family were all exterminated overnight. Did you do it? Quote. It's not a difficult question. Juquan said as he stretched out his hand. Understood. Watergate agreed, handing over a stack of banknotes. Yes. Juquan glanced at the banknote roughly and then nodded in acknowledgement. Gone. Watergate was a little surprised. The banknote of 100,000 taels was only exchanged for one word. Otherwise, do you want me to explain the killing process in detail? Juquan asked a little lazily. There is no need to elaborate on that. The second question is someone entrusting you to target Cheyenne village? Watergate smiled bitterly and handed over another 100,000 taels, and continued to ask. No one entrusted this kind of thing, but my maid was bullied, and I just helped her avenge her. Juquan smiled slightly, for the sake of reward, and explained the matter a little. It turns out that Juquan still loves short. Shui Men looked at Juquan with a black line, but his thinking also began to diverge. If Koizumi really took a fancy to the people around him, then with Tsunade-sama sitting in Konoha, at least Koizumi should not do anything harmful to Konoha. But thinking about it, this kind of thing still has to be asked clearly, so Watergate handed over 100,000 taels again and asked, last question, if someone entrusts you to target Konoha, will you look at Tsunade-sama's face and refuse to entrust? Quote. No one can say for sure what will happen in the future, but maybe they will refuse. Juquan smiled and brushed off an answer that made Watergate slightly reassuring. Then I'll be relieved. I just didn't eat a late-night snack. Let's have that mapo tofu from last time. The Watergate chief breathed a sigh of relief, and the big stone in his heart fell, and even his appetite was a little open. After a while, a plate of mapo tofu full of hemp, spicy, color, aroma and hot flavors was served, accompanied by a bowl of white rice. This taste, no matter how many times you eat it, will not get tired. Watergate's index finger moved, and after admiration, he buried his head and ate it. Hee, this is what I did. Naturally it is a boutique. Juquan had long expected this, and boasted very seriously. Ahem, by the way, in fact, I have always been curious, what is your relationship with Tsunade-sama? Quote. Seemingly choked, Watergate coughed for a while, raised his head after a gentle period, and asked with some gossip. This matter was also something he was particularly interested in, but because he was usually too busy, he never had the opportunity to ask Juquan. Watergate had also suspected that there might be a master-apprentice relationship between Koizumi and Tsunade. However, it turned out later that Juquan was too strong. With Tsunade's strength, it is absolutely impossible to teach such a terrifying apprentice. Later, Watergate suspected that they were brothers and sisters, or relatives, but Narashikahisa vetoed them on the spot. Because the people of the Senju clan were once also the Hao clan of Konoha, they were very strict with the genealogy. Since the sacrifice of the Senju rope tree, the family tree of the Senju family has only Tsunade alone, as well as some old and weak family servants. It can be said that the Thousand Hands clan simply cannot have a bloodline left in the outside world. Therefore, although the Nine Springs were able to bring down the tree realm between the original Hokage Thousand Hand pillars, it was also excluded. After all, there is also a ninja named Yamato in the Dark Department, who can also use Mudden, so it can't be said that Yamato is also a member of the Senju clan, right? In the end, Watergate even guessed that Koizumi and Tsunade were a couple, which has not yet been overturned, but it always feels wrong. This kind of problem involves personal privacy, and I won't tell you anyway. Juquan replied with a smile full of kindness, and then directly refused. The yard is cleaned up. Is there anything else I need to do? At this time, Yi Kang, who had cleaned the courtyard behind, came out and walked to the restaurant from the back door and asked. Who is this? Quote. Watergate saw a strange face and asked suspiciously. This is what I said about the maid Yi Kang, I can't drive it away, it's really. Juquan completely ignored Yi Kang's angry gaze and introduced it very casually. Yi Kang, isn't this the hero of Sand Hide? Quote. Watergate was stunned, and finally understood the truth of the high-level extermination incident in Cheyenne village. Before, he thought that the maid that Juquan said was Xiao Nan, and he was still wondering how Xiao Nan provoked Shangsa Yin village. But if it was Yi Kang, then things would be clear. those high-level party interests, although Watergate does not like to participate, but as a Hokage also knows a little. Now that Yi Kang has left Sha Yin, you shouldn't be afraid that she is a spy, right? Although Juquan asked with a smile, his expression became serious. In the air, an invisible coercion emanated. It has nothing to do with domineering. This coercion is the natural momentum of having strong self-confidence and strength. Even Yi Kang next to him felt that palpitating oppression. But she also had a little warmth, because in a sense, Juquan was serious for her. No, as long as you don't wear a sand shield, you can walk around in Konoha casually. Watergate hurriedly waved his hand to explain to avoid this unnecessary misunderstanding. Although he, as a shadow-level powerhouse, was better than Yi Kang in the face of this coercion, he still felt some pressure. And because of this little thing, it is really not wise to go to the evil Juquan. Of course, Yi Kang has already broken away from the sand concealment, and naturally will no longer wear the sand concealment forehead. Juquan smiled, retracted all momentum, and returned to his original lazy state again. The atmosphere in the entire store suddenly changed back as if nothing had happened. Next, Watergate stopped talking much, for fear that too much would be lost. 10 minutes later, a plate of Mapo tofu quickly bottomed out. After the Watergate settled the account, he hurriedly left, as if some tailed beast behind him was chasing him. This person has blonde hair, and he can represent Konoha between words, but he can't be the Hokage of Konoha, right? Yi Kang saw that people were walking away, and asked a little strangely. That's right, during the Third Ninja World War, people gave nicknames Golden Flash, and they were very fast people. Juquan nodded and commented very pertinently. The shadow of a village, why don't you have any momentum here? Yi Kang asked a little puzzled, his expression very puzzled. Because in her opinion, Konoha is the number one in the 5 great ninja villages, and there should be no reason to be so afraid of 9 Springs. Hee, before Lei Ying was also very imposing in front of me, now only half of Union Village remains. The corners of Juquan's mouth curled up, and he smiled faintly. The corner of Yi Kang's mouth twitched, and she forgot about this stubble. Hongdu has been depressed lately, because the restaurant, which opened in the middle of the night, has been closed for several days. She came to see almost every night and returned her previous oversized maid outfit by the way. Today, she passed by the restaurant according to the custom, and she didn't have hope, but she didn't expect that this restaurant actually opened. And there was a man with yellow hair who ran away from the restaurant. Looks, how does it seem to be Hokage? For a while, Hongdu's little face was full of curiosity, and a pair of white and tender little feet unconsciously accelerated the pace towards the restaurant. Yo, girl, come to my side again today, is chakra not enough? Juquan looked at the red beans rushing in and said hello meaningfully. Who would miss that kind of thing? Red Bean recalled the chakra that was raging on him that day, like a cat whose tail had been trampled, and retorted with a red little face. After a pause, she put the cloth bag in her hand on the table and said, "This is the previous large maid outfit, now return it to you. By the way, why didn't it open a few days ago?" Quote, "There was something to deal with some time ago, but now it's open normally, so you shouldn't have lost your wallet this time, right?" Juquan remembered the scene of the girl working before, and asked with a smile. HMPH, I completed a lot of tasks some time ago, enough to pay for meals. Red Bean pouted and placed the bulging money bag on the table. She has always loved to eat, and in order to eat something delicious, it doesn't matter if she spends all the task remuneration. In the original book, Red Beans liked to eat meatballs the most, but now the situation has changed. Since she came to Juquan to eat once, that unique dish has completely conquered her little belly. Previously, Hongdu also told a few friends Shiraihong that she had found an absolutely delicious restaurant. But during that time, because Juquan never opened the door, Hongdu did not dare to bring friends over. So what do you want to eat? Juquan raised his eyebrows and asked. I want to eat golden fried rice. Is it really rice made in gold? Quote. Red Bean looked at the recipe on the wall and asked with bright eyes. Golden fried rice refers to the use of the simplest ingredients, rice, eggs, salt, through the highest craftsmanship, so that each grain of rice is stained with egg juice, forming a golden color, but also glow. Juquan smiled slightly and explained to Red Bean in detail. Cut, Who is the boss deceiving, and how can there be a dish that will shine? Hongdu pouted, and said with an expression of disbelief on his little face. As a foodie, she knows that it is difficult to make reflective dishes these days, let alone shine. Girl, you are questioning my ability, do you want to bet on something? Juquan heard the question, put down the ingredients he was preparing in his hand, and said with interest. If you can't cook a glowing dish, ask me to eat for a month for nothing. Hongdu pondered for a while, and then opened his small mouth and proposed. Although she didn't believe that Juquan could make glowing dishes, she had absolutely nothing to say about Juquan's craftsmanship. And as long as you win, you can eat for a month for free, and red beans will drool when you think about it. If I win, as a punishment for you questioning me, but if you want to hit the little buttocks, 10 strokes will be fine. Juquan smiled slightly, and also opened his own price. Chang, deliver. Quote, although Hongdu was a little hesitant, he still agreed. Although she will be beaten on the buttocks if she loses, based on her more than 10 years of culinary experience, she is still sure that there is no dish in this world that will shine. Wait a minute, just a minute. Juquan saw that Red Bean agreed to the bet, and curled the corners of his mouth and smiled. For the mind of Red Beans, although Juquan can't read minds, he can also guess a 7, 7, 8. If Hongdu is allowed to see the little Chinese master, I am afraid that she will not agree to such a bet. Isn't it just adding special effects and then doing? Juquan asked himself that it was still possible to make things shine. Yi Kang saw the bet between the two and thought it was very interesting, so he sat at the table and watched curiously. While waiting for the golden fried rice, Red Bean's restless head turned around, and he saw Yi Kang on the table next to him. Ha, you are. Hongdu couldn't help but wonder, this beautiful woman in front of him didn't seem to be a guest. I'm a maid here, just call me Yi Kang. Yi Kang leaned against the table, smiled, and introduced himself. Great murder weapon, long legs, the face is also beautiful. Hongdu puffed out his mouth, looked at the mature Yi Kang, and inexplicably felt a sense of frustration. Now she finally knew why Juquan had said that she was small before. Among her peers, she can be proud of herself. But compared with a mature young lady like Yi Kang, she really failed. Fortunately, this frustration did not last long, and Juquan's cuisine came out. Golden fried rice is ready, get ready to blind the dog's eyes. Placing the plate on the table, Juquan pinched the lid, and slowly uncovered it in the curious eyes of the two people next to him. With the lid lifted, a blinding light rose up into the sky and illuminated the entire store. How can there really be glowing cuisine? Red Doe barely opened his eyes and exclaimed in disbelief. She also thought that Juquan used chakra to cheat. After all, chakra can also cause light and shadow effects. But it seems that this dish does not look like half a chakra. Girl, get ready for your little buttocks to bloom. Juquan smiled maliciously, declaring victory while weakening the output of qi. Gradually, the dazzling glow on the plate disappeared, leaving only a plate of fried rice with a golden color. Cheating with chakra. Juquan is not so stupid. Although Red Doe is a girl, she also has the degree of middle tolerance. If you really use chakra, she will find it in minutes. But if you use qi, plus some concealment, with the perception ability of Red Beans, it is impossible to find out. However, Yi Kang next to her looked thoughtful, and with her strength that was about to enter the quasi-shadow level, she seemed to see something. That, boss, can we change our bet? I'm a girl, so you shouldn't really want to hit me there, right? Quote. Hongdu thought of the bet, his expression suddenly changed, and he said with a mocking face. If you want to gamble and lose, you shouldn't want to pay the bill, right? The corners of Juquan's mouth turned up, and he said with a smile. Who said I'm going to pay the bill? It's just that I have a mission tomorrow. If it blooms there, the task cannot be carried out. Quote. Red Doe lowered his little head and explained with a red face. Small buttocks blooming. The girl's small buttocks, but the most secret place, how can she be beaten so badly? If the little buttocks really bloom, it will definitely take several days to cultivate. So what about tomorrow's tasks? Hongdu was already difficult to receive a task that suits herself, and now she finally received one. Do you want her to give up? She absolutely couldn't accept such a thing. Don't be embarrassed for her, you originally relied on an energy that did not belong to chakra to make the cooking shine. Yi Kang came forward in time to save the embarrassed Red Bean. Although Yi Kang is not a good person, she still decides to help this girl who was fooled by Juquan's bad taste. Energy that does not belong to chakra. Quote, when Hongdu heard this, he recalled the situation just now, and immediately understood that he had been deceived, and said angrily, bad boss, you cheat. In this case, our gamble will not count. Also, thank you Yi Kang for reminding me. Quote, as soon as the words fell, Hongdu fled and left, but as a foodie, she did not forget to leave the plate of golden fried rice when she left. Juquan looked at the red beans that were far away, and did not chase them, until the red beans disappeared from sight, and then his gaze fell on Yi Kang. What do you want to do? Yi Kang suddenly had a bad feeling and immediately asked alertly. Every time Juquan shows a honey smile, it means that there is no good thing, or someone is going to be unlucky, and this time is no exception. Therefore, Yi Kang made up his mind that he must learn to resist and not be the kind of maid who is submissive. You broke my gambling contract, and you have to pay a price, so what do you think I want to do? Juquan stood up, walked to Yi Kang's side, and said word by word. I don't know what you're thinking. Yi Kang couldn't sit still, she had never been looked at by such an aggressive gaze, and she couldn't help but wrap her arms around and protect the murder weapon. In this way, then transfer the bet of red beans to you, only 10 times, very quickly. Juquan thought for a while, and then said decisively. Snap. As soon as the words fell, I saw him slap his backhand and slap on Yi Kang's small buttocks. Yi Kang's unprotected little buttocks were caught off guard, and suddenly set off waves. This is just the effect of a light palm. If you strain, I don't know what kind of scene it is. Kind of interesting. Seeing this, Juquan smiled. He didn't expect that whether it was soft feel or shocking visual effects, it was actually so good. Stop. After Yi Kang's small buttocks were attacked, it didn't matter that the person who made the move was the legendary black-robed Juquan. I saw that she clenched her fists and fought back straight. Snap. Juquan lightly grabbed the striking fist. No matter how Yi Kang struggled, she couldn't struggle, so she swung another pink fist to attack again. This move is useless to me. Juquan casually caught the other fist, then shook his head and said with a relaxed expression. At this time, Juquan had firmly controlled Yi Kang's hands on her back. This control method was more like grappling, so that Yi Kang's upper body was forced to lie on the table, and he couldn't see what Juquan was doing at all. I'm just your maid, but nothing else, you can't fight. Yi Kang softened, but before he finished speaking, his weak little buttocks were once again destroyed. Snap. 9 times in a row, each time the sound was louder than the previous one. Phew. After being beaten, Yi Kang's eyes widened, and he was stunned in disbelief for a long time, and finally he couldn't help crying. Big tears, don't fall to the ground like money. Pain is only one aspect, more grievances, and humiliation. She had never been treated like this before, and she was in this half-lying position. Do you feel aggrieved? Juquan smiled and approached Yi Kang's pink earlobe, and said with a soft breath. The warm breath made Yi Kang's ears move uncontrollably. Why did you do this to me? Yi Kang eased for a while and asked with red eyes. Who let you break my gambling contract? Otherwise it will not be you who will be beaten on the small buttocks now, but the red beans. Juquan explained in a serious way, and the words were reasonable, and people couldn't fault it. You, hiss. Quote. Yi Kang wanted to stand up and theorize, but with a slight movement, the pain in her small buttocks made her lie back again. Gee, look at your pitiful appearance, I'll help you see. Seeing this, Juquan's gaze began to move towards the place where Yi Kang was upturned. Hey, don't you want to do anything to me? Yi Kang also thought that Juquan was going to take off her short skirt, and hurriedly grabbed the waist of the skirt. Just kidding, is it possible to watch casually there? Although it really hurts, Yi Kang will definitely not lose his bottom line. You know, being hit and being seen are two completely different concepts. Don't do pointless struggles, I'm a white-eyed person. Juquan smiled full of kindness, and opened his eyes without hurry. This time, he did not disguise his eyes, but used them fairly, obviously deliberately letting Yi Kang know. What? Yi Kang was shocked and exclaimed in surprise. Looking at the iconic white pupils of the Hinata family, she knew that Koizumi did not lie to her, but really had white eyes. For a while, Yi Kang didn't care about the waist of his skirt, but protected his 3 most secret forbidden places at the fastest speed in his life. Still too young. The corners of Juquan's mouth turned up, and he shook his head with some sighs. Can the white eye be blocked by hand? If you can block it with your hands, then the white eyes of the Hinata family are too wasted, and what kind of investigation is talked about, and even the Yunnan kidnapping incident will not happen. As early as the moment Juquan opened his eyes, he had already seen through Yi Kang from top to bottom and from outside to inside. But just then, Yi Kang's hand shifted, and Juquan took off her short skirt, revealing her round little buttocks. You stop. Quote. Yi Kang was so angry, the tears that had been withdrawn swirled in his beautiful eyes again. The little buttocks were exposed to the air, unobstructed under the sight of Juquan, which also made Yi Kang feel a little inexplicable. However, Yi Kang's hands were still desperately protecting the 3 forbidden places on his body, and he couldn't free his hands to put on the short skirt. If Yi Kang knew that she had been seen long ago, I am afraid that she would not have any scruples to put on a short skirt. In the end, Yi Kang's understanding of the white eye ability was not comprehensive enough. Or maybe she was already confused at the time and didn't expect this kind of detail. The little buttocks are fine, it's just slight redness and swelling, and in order to achieve the purpose of punishment, I don't need treatment. As if he hadn't heard it, Juquan concluded with a playful look. You, hurry up and take back your eyes. Quote. Yi Kangchi almost couldn't speak. If it weren't for her firm mind, I am afraid that she would have been dizzy long ago. For a moment, Yi Kang really doubted what sins he had done in his previous life. Just left Cheyenne village, it can be regarded as leaving the wolf's den, and it fell into the hands of Juquan. The most infuriating thing is that with her strength, she can't resist at all in front of Juquan. Okay, I've lifted the roll of my eyes, now you can rest assured, hurry up and put on your skirt. As he spoke, Juquan's eyes regained their black pupils. Snap. Just as Yi Kang breathed a sigh of relief, Juquan slapped her backhand again and slapped it straight on her small buttocks. Didn't you say that you only hit 10? Yi Kang cried for the second time, and asked angrily with red eyes. I saw that her already round little buttocks were even more upturned now. I'm really sorry, it's smooth, but it feels really good. Juquan apologized insincerely, and then said with a honey smile, it's okay, if you make a mistake next time, I will hit you one less. Quote. Still feel good. Want to have a next time. Yi Kang lay on the table in grief. She could see that Juquan was intentional, but there was nothing she could do. If God gave her another chance, she would rather lie here right now with red beans. Anyway, it's all over. Yi Kang put on his short skirt and stood aside covering his aching little buttocks. With her small buttocks now, she has said goodbye to the chair, and the reason is that she can't sit down at all. Are you two okay? At this time, Xiaonan came in through the back door and asked with a strange look. When she was taking a shower just now, she heard movement in the restaurant from a distance, so she changed her clothes and came to take a look. Judging from the current situation, Yi Kang's posture is indeed unusual, and it looks like he has just been over. But with the time of 9 springs, each time is at least an hour to start. From the opening just now to now, it has been less than half an hour, and it is absolutely impossible for Juquan to finish in such a short time. It's nothing, Yi Kang made a mistake just now, so I punished it a little. Juquan smiled and simply explained what happened just now. It seems that the punishment is very severe, and the little buttocks are actually so upturned. Xiaonan seemed expressionless, but there was still a little teasing in his tone. In fact, at this time, her heart was already bursting with laughter, but in order to maintain her cold image, she could barely hold back and didn't laugh out loud. Quote. Yi Kang's heart was bitter, and she naturally heard the intention of moving. But now like this, what can she do except snort coldly in disbelief? Very unconvinced, Xiaonan said with a dark belly, suddenly stretched out his jade hand, and coldly patted Yi Kang's small buttocks, causing Yi Kang to croak again. You guys, you are all bad people. Quote. After Yi Kang slowed down, his eyes full of mist widened, and he was really aggrieved and couldn't even finish speaking. It was clear that the 10 strokes had already ended, but Juquan had hit one more time in the end, and now Xiaonan hit one more time. Looking at the way Juquan and Xiaonan sang and harmonized, Yi Kang decided not to stay any longer, so she covered her small buttocks and walked to the bedroom step by step. There is still medicine in the room, how about I go and bring her some later, and comfort her by the way. Xiaonan saw that Yi Kang had gone back, put away his dark belly, and asked in a low voice. Then do as you want, go. Juquan nodded and responded with a smile. He was not surprised by Xiaonan's proposal. Ever since the last Juquan shot to extinguish Xiaonan's vinegar intention, she had already recognized Yi Kang's existence. Although Xiaonan will still fight with Yi Kang, on the surface, it is actually a joke. After the joke, what to do, there is no revenge. After seeing Xiaonan go back, Juquan sat on the chair boredly, and then quietly waited until the closing time in the morning, and did not have another guest. Morning. The suburbs of Konoha. Juquan Shin said to take a walk and breathe the fresh air of nature in the forest. Although he didn't sleep all night, he still had plenty of energy. However, just when Juquan was about to take advantage of the fresh air and stretch out, a different voice came from the southeast direction. Koizumi took a few steps towards the source of the sound and bypassed a pile of weeds, only to see a white-haired Kakashi, a young Akai in his mouth, and a weasel standing on a branch and watching. When did these three get together? Juquan didn't bother either, ready to see what they were doing together. Kakashi, start our 16th challenge, whoever loses, run 100 laps around Konoha. Weasel, please be a witness. Quote. Akai gave a thumbs up and shouted with shining white teeth. If you lose, it's okay to run 1,000 laps, I won't run anyway. Kakashi rolled his dead fish eyes and said a little helplessly. For Akai's challenge, Kakashi's heart actually refused, but it was not enough to accept it. Because you can never imagine what it is to be pestered with such a second goods. When eating, sleeping, bathing, going to the toilet. In short, Akai is like a ghost, and every time it can emerge from unexpected places. I won't lose this time, after all, I have been practicing for a long time for this challenge. Akai said, clenching his fists and rushing over. Kakashi knew that he was inferior to Akai in terms of physical skills, so naturally he would not use physical skills to fight hard, but chose to pull away for a distance and then prepared to defeat Akai with ninjutsu. But who knew that at this moment, Akai's figure suddenly accelerated, and before Kakashi could make any move, he rushed in front of him and punched him. What? Kakashi was caught off guard, and with his experience in performing high-risk missions many times, he instinctively used a substitute technique to dodge this punch. Bang! Kakashi's figure disappeared in place and turned into a stake, only to be shattered by Akai's punch. Just now Akai's sudden acceleration, the youth should be shaved, right? Juquan couldn't help but hold his forehead, and almost didn't recognize that this was the sixth style. Because the shaving used by Akai is too unusual, and half of the power in it is wasted, otherwise his speed can be another 50% faster. It seems that Akai's shaving is not taught by weasels, otherwise it would not be so bad. Juquan rubbed his chin, and the old god was analyzing. The actual situation is actually similar to what Juquan thought. Since he had lost to Itachi before, Akai often fought against Itachi, and Itachi took this opportunity to cultivate the six styles. Although Akai has never won the weasel, he has gradually imitated some moves by relying on his unique understanding and hard work of physical skills. Shaving, but one of the imitations that Akai imitated. At the moment, the battle between Akai and Kakashi continues, and the two sides chase and dodge, which is a bit like cat and mouse. For Kakashi, Akai's clinging melee combat method really gave him a headache, and he couldn't even use an attack ninjutsu. Every time he wanted to open the distance between him and Akai, he was always approached again by Akai with an acceleration. Pure spelling skills, Kakashi is not Akai's opponent, and can only barely cope for a while. Look at my fingergun. Akai took advantage of the victory to pursue, stretched out his index finger, and stabbed sharply. Buzz. Kakashi resisted with Kumu's side, and while letting out a hum, it also shook his entire arm numb. Can you exert such power with just your fingers? Kakashi analyzed with a cold sweat as he had just tried to block it with his arm. However, at the moment when the finger gun really hit, he subconsciously felt that there was a crisis, so he temporarily changed to Ku-Wu. Fortunately, Kakashi didn't resist with his arm, otherwise his arm would inevitably have an extra blood hole. Actually blocked my blow, worthy of being my opponent, let's take a look at my move. Seeing that his attack didn't work, Akai changed his routine and jumped backwards to distance himself from Kakashi. Can I finally unleash ninjutsu? Kakashi wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he didn't know why Akai stopped fighting in close combat, it was too late to think about it, and this was the best time to unleash ninjutsu. However, at this time, the situation on the field changed. Arashi foot. Akai burst out, interrupting Kakashi, who had just been halfway imprinted. I saw that the muscles of Akai's feet contracted and stretched rapidly, and then relied on kinetic energy to quickly exit his legs, causing the air in front of his legs to compress and send out a sharp wave of chi. Although this 1-meter-sized air wave slash is only compressed by air, it makes people dare not underestimate it at all. Tuden Tuliu Wall. Kakashi was forced to abandon offensive ninjutsu in favor of defense. A thick earthen wall rose up and stopped this wave of chi at the most critical moment. Boom! The air wave slashed deep into the earthen wall, splitting the entire earthen wall in half. The remaining wave of chi passed through the earthen wall and slashed towards Kakashi again, but at a much slower speed, and Kakashi dodged it. When did Akai become so strong? Kakashi exhaled a long breath, his expression becoming solemn. They had fought 15 times before, but Akai had never won once. It can even be said that in the first 15 challenges, Kakashi did not feel much effort to win. But this time, the 16th challenge, the situation seems to have changed. Don't see if Kakashi can handle it now, it's all barely done. Akai can now use his finger gun in close combat, and he can use Arashi's terrifying tricks from range. What can Kakashi do? He is also helpless. Your current strength really surprised me. You have to be careful next, I will also use the secret mysteries. Kakashi said seriously, and then lifted the forehead that covered his left eye, revealing the 3-hook Tama Chakra eye. Itachi was not surprised to see the eyes that belonged to the Uchiha family. It seemed that Watergate had done the work of the Uchiha family. There are only 2 techniques that can make Kakashi a secret mysteries. One is 1,000 birds, but it takes a distance to cast 1,000 birds to sprint, and according to the current situation, it is obviously impossible to perform, then it should be the other. Jukwon watched the two in the fight and slightly aroused his interest. At this time, Kakashi and Akai exchanged hands again. The dynamic vision and anticipation ability provided by the Sengoatama Sharingan actually allowed Kakashi to tie with Akai in terms of physical skills. It's just that this flat situation cannot be maintained for long. With Kakashi's current amount of chakra, it simply can't withstand the long-term consumption of the Sharingan. So he no longer hesitated, found a gap, formed a tiger seal with his hands, and stabbed hard at Akai's weakest part. Konoha's secret body transformation technique Mystery Millennium Kill. Kakashi picked it too well, and since Akai was using a roundhouse kick in the air, he couldn't borrow power, so he couldn't use the shaving to dodge. Pieces of iron. In a hurry, Akai forcibly used the iron block move, causing his whole body to summon up enough strength and take the blow abruptly. Is this guy made of iron? Kakashi withdrew his finger and screamed secretly. At that moment just now, he seemed to poke at the steel, and if he hadn't collected his strength in time, I'm afraid his fingers would have broken. It's worthy of being my fateful opponent, and I almost hit the trick just now. After Akai fell to the ground, he lifted the iron, scratched his head and laughed, looking like a nobody. Haha. Jukwon watched the live version of the Millennium Killing, did not hold back, and laughed directly. Sure enough, watching it live on the spot is completely different from watching manga or watching anime. Especially when the Millennium Kill didn't work, Kakashi's stunned expression under the mask was really funny. But then again, Jukwon had also used 1,000 years of killing against Tsunade before, but instead of using his fingers, he used Shao Jukwon. Now seeing this scene, Jukwon secretly decided to go back and take time to find Tsunade to relive the Millennium Killing. Hearing the laughter of outsiders, Itachi, Kakashi, and Akai all looked alertly behind the tree where Koizumi was hiding. In their opinion, there are strangers who have been watching in secret for so long, and they have not yet been discovered, and they are definitely not ordinary people. Don't panic, I'm just a melon-eating crowd passing by. Jukwon saw that he had been discovered, so he no longer hidden, changed into a black robe, and slowly walked out from behind the tree. The black robe, you are the black robe 9 springs. Quote. Kakashi saw this familiar outfit and blurted out subconsciously. He was very surprised by the appearance of Jukwon. Could this rumored powerhouse also come out to exercise? Lord Jukwon, thank you really last time. Akai was not surprised. He had already seen 9 springs in the training ground of the Death Forest before. At that time, Jukwon had not yet done so many major events that shocked the ninja world, although he also abused the 9 tails, but Akai was not at the scene on the night of the 9 tails, so he did not know about this matter. Now every time he thinks that he has to compete with Jukwon at that time, Akai will smile awkwardly. He couldn't even beat Jukwon's disciple Itachi, and he still wanted to challenge Jukwon. And later, in the competition with Weasel, although Akai lost the 8-door dunja, Jukwon still gave Akai 1 million taels as living expenses, which he will never forget. Teacher. The Weasel was much simpler, saluted respectfully, and then silently stood aside. Teacher. Kakashi looked at Itachi in disbelief and repeated suspiciously. He could never have imagined that this genius young man of the Uchiha family was actually a rumored disciple of the black-robed Jukwon. Hey, Kakashi, don't you know? Master Jukwon has long accepted the Weasel as a disciple. Quote. Seeing this, Akai explained on the side. Kakashi really didn't know about this, but he wasn't blamed for his ignorance, but Konoha's high level deliberately concealed it. It stands to reason that with the extremely strong power of Jukwon, having accepted Itachi as a disciple, those high-level officials should spread the news throughout the ninja world. After all, Itachi is a ninja of Konoha, and the rumored disciple of the Black Robe 9 Springs is a person of Konoha. As soon as this news spreads, it will make Konoha increase a lot of deterrence out of thin air. But by the same token, it is Jukwon who is extremely strong, not Itachi. With the power of Jukwon, naturally no one can threaten him, otherwise it would be impossible to survive until now with a bounty of tens of billions. But Itachi is different, although his current strength is also very strong, more than 6 years old and less than 7 years old, the strength is close to Shinobu, and he is definitely worthy of the name of Konoha's first day. But it is precisely for this reason that ferrets are very dangerous. The other people in the shinobi village were very happy to see Konoha's death on the first day. Even with the deterrent power of Jukwon, it is inevitable that there will be powerful outlaws who will take the opportunity to assassinate Itachi. So the high level of Konoha, as well as the patriarch of Uchiha, unanimously decided to hide the identity of Itachi for the time being. Unless Itachi becomes a shadow-level powerhouse, this matter must not be disclosed to the public. If it weren't for the scene where Akai had seen Jukwon teaching the Weasel in the Forest of Death, then Akai would never have known about it. In other side of the village. Bang, swish. Jukwon kicked on those gravel, and countless tiny gravel instantly flew towards the Weasel like a cannonball. Paper painting. The ferret suddenly unloaded his whole body strength and launched the paper painting. With the assistance of seeing and hearing domineering, he can feel the changes in the airflow more clearly, and he can avoid it every time. It's just that even if all the stones are avoided, the Weasel is still driven by the powerful airflow driven by the stones, which makes the skin hurt. Knock knock. The stones that were flashed by the Weasel crashed into a small hill hundreds of meters behind him. The originally level mountain wall has become potholed as if it had been blown up by several detonation charms. It's okay. Next test the proficiency of the iron block. This time I will increase the strength, so you are also allowed to use armed color domineering stacking. Jukwon nodded and motioned to start the next test. Gollum. Hearing that Jukwon was going to increase his strength, the Weasel couldn't help but swallow his spit. He looked back at the mountain wall that had been destroyed by the stones thrown by Jukwon, and for the first time felt that life was so difficult. I'm afraid that the danger of performing an A-level mission is just that, right? No, the ferret would rather go on an A-class mission. The moment he dodged the stone just now, just the airflow driven by the stone already made the ferret feel the powerful power in it. If you are accidentally hit by such a stone, you will definitely be dead or disabled. At present, Jukwon still has to increase its strength. Just with armed color domineering and iron blocks, can it really be blocked? Teacher, are you sure that this level of testing is really okay? Itachi asked with some hesitation, and there was also some unconfidence in his tone. Of course it's no problem, you have to believe in your own ability and go you. Jukwon said with a smile, added a sudden kick, and kicked a large number of stones again. Buzz, buzz. Several stones flew towards the weasel in an instant, with greater power than before, and even created a humming sound in the air. Overlord color domineering hardening, iron block, open. The ferret didn't have time to think so much, and suddenly used all its strength to defend against the stones that were about to fly over. No way, if you don't do your best, you may really die. Boom boom. Most of the stones bombarded the body of the ferret, making a violent sound like an explosion, and the smoke and dust quickly filled up. The remaining small part of the stones hit the small hill behind, completely beating the already tattered small hill into a sieve. After a while, everything was calm again. A light breeze blew through, taking away all the smoke and dust, revealing the weasel that was still posing defensively inside. I actually resisted. The weasel also felt that the test was over, and after lifting the domineering and iron blocks, he said with some disbelief. When he was bombarded by stones just now, the ferret thought that he was dead, but he didn't expect to be alive. I have said it a long time ago, you have to have confidence in yourself, and when your domineering and six-style cultivation reaches a certain level, you will find the so-called shadow level powerhouse, and that's it. Juquan sat on a chair made of wooden dun, and the old god said in his presence. I have to say that in the early stage of Hokage, except for Juquan, people recognize the strongest person as the shadow of a village. And now, all Juquan has to do is to open the weasel's eyes and let him put his target farther. I see, thank you for your guidance, hiss. Quote, Itachi understood Juquan's intention, and wanted to salute and thank him, but the moment he moved, a burst of pain emanated from all over his body. It seems that your cultivation is still a little flawed, although the bones are not broken, but still caused flesh and skin injuries. Go back to rest for 2 days, and then go to the dark department to report. I hope that the next time I see you, you have cultivated enough to deal with this level of attack. Juquan laughed, and then instructed with the corners of his mouth curled. Yes, teacher. Despite the pain, the ferret gritted his teeth and saluted. When the ferret returned to the Uchiha clan, the blue nose and swollen face still caused the onlookers and surprises of the Uchiha clan. The eldest young master of the Uchiha family, the first day of Konoha, was he beaten by whom? Itachi, who are you fighting with? Uchiha Fukucho sat in the main hall and asked seriously. Itachi has not been out of the village on a mission recently. In other words, Itachi must have been beaten like this in Konoha. In Konoha, dare someone not to give face to the Uchiha clan? This made Fukucho a little dissatisfied, and the bad weasel is also the young master of the Uchiha family, not an ordinary ninja. The teacher said to test my strength, but I barely passed, saying that he would take a break for 2 days and let me go to the dark department to report, where I can get better experience. The ferret covered his face with one hand and explained in pain. Oh, so it is, your teacher did it right. Quote, Fukucho heard that it was Juquan's test, and directly changed the conversation and said. In his opinion, if it was caused by Juquan, it would be normal. After all, it was precisely because Juquan was so strict that the strength of the ferret advanced by leaps and bounds. The teacher said that my cultivation was a little flawed, and I wanted to take advantage of the 2 days of rest to hurry up and cultivate, and also ask my father to help. The ferret kept his face silent, and even tried not to mobilize any muscles when he spoke, otherwise it would be another burst of pain. How do you want to cultivate? Uchiha Fuchu asked puzzled. Beaten. The ferret gritted his teeth and replied, struggling to turn on the iron block mode. Speaking of Juquan again, after saying goodbye to the weasel, he took off his black robe and prepared to go home for dinner. When I went back, I happened to meet Tiantian halfway on the way. Those 2 small ball heads are really recognizable. Big brother is good. Tian said hello. Although she was still young, she already remembered. The last time she encountered danger in the ninja shop, it was Juquan who saved her. That time, because Juquan was not wearing a black robe, he could recognize his appearance every day, but he didn't know that Juquan was the black-robed powerhouse who was famous in the ninja realm. Isn't this every day? Come out alone to play. Juquan squatted down and greeted with the same smile. For this little loli, Juquan is also quite impressed. After all, it is also one of the 12 small powerhouses in the future. Dad gave me 10 taels and asked me to come out and buy candy to eat, but the price of sugar has increased, and I can't buy it. Tiantian remembered the purpose of his coming out, opened his eyes, and said a little aggrieved. The little hand was shaking with a silver ticket of 10 taels, as if he wanted to shake out 20 taels. Well, go to my house and I'll treat you to a stick. Club. Jukwon remembered that among the snacks he bought back at home, there were quite a few sticks. Lollipop, so smiled and invited. In the words, although I forgot to say the sugar word, there was nothing wrong with it. Good. Anyway, Tiantian understood, heard that there was sugar to eat, a happy smile appeared on his little face, and he agreed without thinking. Inadvertently, 9 springs with a stick. Lollipop, coaxed back a little lowly. After going back, Xiaonan was taking a bath, and Yi Kang was performing the duties of a maid, cleaning. You're back. Yi Kang saw Jukwon returning. Although he was a little uncomfortable, he still greeted. Because I don't know why, her small buttocks, which were already fine, faintly felt some pain. Where's the last purchase? Jukwon smiled, and then asked straight to the point. Every day, along the way, I heard that there was a lot of sugar to eat, and the saliva on my small mouth never stopped. If you don't give her candy again, I'm afraid that saliva will become a disaster. Those things are handled by Xiaonan, I don't know. Yi Kang explained, and then saw Tiantian with a face full of hunger for sugar, and said in amazement, such a cute little fellow, where did you bring it back? Quote. Met on the street. Jukwon replied with a smile, and then prepared to go to Xiaonan to ask. Xiaonan is taking a bath. Yi Kang reminded faintly, but then felt that his words were a little redundant. People sing every day and night, what is such a trifle as bathing? You reminded me that I will take a bath later, and as a maid, remember to come and serve me. As if thinking of something, Jukwon smiled honey, turned his head and said, and then went to find Xiaonan. Serve you. Yi Kang stayed in place in a daze, gritting his teeth and looking at Jukwon's back after reflecting. The maid served to take a bath or something, this is something that only appeared before the Warring States. Since the end of the Warring States period, maids have been just maids, how can there be such a thing as serving baths? Big sister, what's wrong with you? Tiantian blinked her big eyes and asked curiously, she always felt that this sister suddenly became so strange. And the little ones here, calm, calm. Yi Kangcheng breathed a sigh of relief, and after controlling his mood, he said with a smile on his face, little sister, where are you from? Quote. Dad gave me money to buy candy, and on the way I met my brother, who said let me come home with him, and he wanted to treat me to a stick. Club. Quote. Tian pursed his lips and explained innocently. What? If Yi Kang was just angry just now, now she is simply angry. What was this thing? How could she not know? If it was a girl like Hongdu before, Yi Kang might not say much. But looking at her pure appearance every day, Yi Kang really couldn't sit idly by and watch her encounter Jukwon's poisonous hands. What to do? Yi Kang's brain spun rapidly, and with Jukwon's strength, she couldn't stop it strongly. Do you say, can it only be punished every day instead of every day, as was the case last time? Yi Kang hesitated for a short while, but he still couldn't pass his conscience, so he took out 500 taels of silver tickets and handed them to Tiantian, saying, listen to my sister, hurry home, this money is enough for you to buy a lot of candy to eat. Quote. Wow, a lot of small money. Tiantian took the silver too, and his eyes shone and exclaimed. Go back quickly, don't talk to strangers casually in the future. While urging Tiantian to leave, Yi Kang turned back from time to time, for fear that Jukwon would appear. Little lowly is easy to deceive, Yi Kanglian coaxed Tiantian to hurry home after hurrying home, and leaned on the door weakly. From now on, she only has to worry about herself. Boom, boom, boom. After a while, Jukwon paced back to the living room with rhythmic steps. What about every day? I'm still waiting to give her candy, should it be sent away by you? Quote. Jukwon walked in front of Yi Kang and said knowingly. In fact, he had just used his sight and smell to be domineering, and he had heard Yi Kang's conversation with Tiantian early. But it doesn't matter, isn't this just a reason to punish Yi Kang again? That's right, I let her go, I really didn't expect that you wouldn't even let go of such a small lowly. Quote. Yi Kang pointed at Jukwon with his finger, and the one who answered was called a righteous awe. Gee, as a maid, you are really very unqualified, it seems that you still need education. Jukwon pretended to shake his head, and then casually threw the sugar on the table. Sugar. Yi Kang was a little confused after seeing it, and suddenly felt that he seemed to have misunderstood something. How could it be candy? According to Juquan's routine, shouldn't it be that? Of course it's sugar, otherwise what do you think? Juquan asked with a smile, his tone full of ridicule. I thought you were going to eat every day. Yi Kang didn't react at first, and said it along with the words. When she reacted, she continued to regret it. It turns out that everything is crooked. Oh, my God, didn't you pit yourself then? And Juquan also said that education is needed. Thinking of this, Yi Kangqiang resisted the urge to vomit blood and asked, what education? Quote, special education. Juquan's smile deepened, and he replied with an unclear meaning. Although Yi Kang was kind, Juquan was still not ready to let her go. Because as a maid, Yi Kang's behavior is obviously unqualified. Then Juquan felt that it was necessary to let Yi Kang know the punishment for unqualified well. And something similar has happened once before. So this time, it is even more necessary to let Yi Kang have an unforgettable lesson. Thinking of this, Juquan smiled slightly, and suddenly had an idea. A few minutes later, in the bathroom, Yi Kang stood helplessly in the corner, lowering his head and not even daring to look at Juquan. Under the continuous contamination of the steam, she looked even more pitiful, weak and helpless. The sponge is gone, so you can help me apply shower gel. After saying that, Juquan got up from the bath, lay down on the massage table next to him, and signaled that Yi Kang could begin. Fortunately, at this time, he was still wearing a white towel, and did not fully show himself in front of Yi Kang's eyes. Otherwise, Yi Kang probably didn't even dare to open his eyes. Got it. Yi Kang nodded and stepped forward with a look of resignation. Although she is very reluctant to do this, what else can she do as a maid without human rights? She is also helpless. No. Wait, don't use your hands, make the most of your strengths. Seeing that Yi Kang was about to start, Juquan stopped her behavior in time. If it was really that simple, what else would he want Yi Kang to do? But isn't the sponge gone? Yi Kang didn't understand what Juquan meant, and asked puzzled. Don't you have 2 clusters of natural sponges? You don't need to use them at this critical time, do you still keep them as decorations? Juquan turned his head and kindly reminded. I warn you, don't go too far. Quote. After Yi Kang listened, he took a few steps back in understanding. Serve this guy to take a bath, forget it, this bad guy actually has to contribute there himself. It's just delusional. No, wishful thinking doesn't think so. As my maid, I don't say anything about elbows turning out, but I am embarrassed to say that I am excessive. I've lived so long and I've never seen such a brazen person. Quote. Juquan tilted his head and criticized reasonably. This is different. Yi Kang still wanted to refute something, but the volume was getting smaller and smaller. Because after listening to Juquan's words, even she felt that she had done something wrong. Is he really wrong? After a while, Yi Kang was still hesitant. But Juquan was not in a hurry at all, but held his chin and slowly admired the scene in front of him. Because water vapor is constantly infecting Leaf Kang's yukata, the longer the time drags on, the more transparent it will be. Do I have any other choice? Yi Kang lowered his head embarrassedly, biting his lower lip and asking. If another person dared to make such a request, she would have already thrown it away. But in the face of Juquan, with her ability, I am afraid that she will not even be able to set off a wave. Revolt. The premise of resistance is that there must be a chance of success. Resistance that does not even have a success rate of 1% is called death. Moreover, in the face of Juquan, it is difficult to die. The resurrection of those few sand ninja teammates, Yi Kang still remembers it vividly. Of course there are other options. Juquan nodded and replied very seriously. Sure enough, there is still none. What the? Quote. Yi Kang was originally a little low, feeling that Juquan could not let her go easily. But after reacting, he found that things seemed to have turned around, so he asked repeatedly, what choice? Quote. Just like before, instead of red beans to beat small buttocks, you can eat instead of every day. Juquan explained with a smile, with a very tolerant look on your face, allowing you to choose one of the two. Okay, I'll go eat the candy right away. Yi Kang heard such a simple solution and said with a relaxed face. Are you sure you definitely don't regret it? Juquan sat up and confirmed again with a honeyi smile. Of course wait a minute. Quote, seeing the familiar terrifying smile, Yi Kang subconsciously felt that something was wrong, stopped talking abruptly, and then asked, the lollipop you said this time should not be your own, right? Quote, I actually guessed correctly, you are so smart, but unfortunately there is no reward. Juquan was not prepared to hide this at all, so he generously admitted it. These are two completely different things, why has this changed to me? Hearing such an answer, Yi Kang asked a little angrily. Tomorrow we'll eat sugar, why can I only eat meat when I get to her? You're not a 2 or 3-year-old child, don't be so naive. Juquan said with a smile, and then instantly entered the good voice mode, tell me loudly, what is your choice? Quote, I choose to wear shower gel. On the contrary, it was Yi Kang who replied in a low voice through gritted teeth. Choose. It sounds good to say that it is a choice, but in fact there is a choice. Does she still have a choice? When Juquan came out of the bath, it was already late. It took more than 2 hours just to apply shower gel, not to mention pinching shoulders and beating legs. Now Yi Kang is paralyzed on the massage table, and she, who has always been known for her diligence, really can't hold on. Whether it is physical strength or strange reactions in the body, they all turn into nothingness in the end. All the power was discharged, so that Yi Kang didn't even want to move a finger. Not bad, in the future, the more this kind of thing, the better. Juquan commented with a smile, and then stretched out refreshed and went to prepare for the opening of the restaurant. And the next time, never again. Quote, when Yi Kang heard this, he retorted wearily. Unfortunately, the sound is not much louder than a mosquito, and I am afraid that only she can hear it. Inside the store, Juquan, who was in a good mood, cooked a few dishes and prepared for a good meal. Xiaonan has already slept and will definitely not come to eat the dishes. As for Yi Kang, she didn't have any strength at all now, let alone come over to eat. Then this table of food, I will enjoy it alone. Juquan rubbed his hands, looked at his masterpiece in front of him, and said with satisfaction. Sunset Hong walked aimlessly down the street because her friend Red Bean said that she had found a particularly delicious restaurant, which only opened in the middle of the night. So Sunset Hong, who also likes to eat, decided to go to the restaurant where Red Beans praised. However, in the center of Konoha, even after walking around the nearby streets several times, I still did not find this so-called restaurant. There are some snacks sold in the night market, and Shirahong bought some all the way, eating while walking, but he was not idle. Red Beans shouldn't lie to me, how can there be a restaurant that only opens in the middle of the night? Sunset Red is a little deflated and small. He muttered to himself. Before she knew it, she had walked to the periphery of Konoha, where there were no street lights, and it looked dark and a little scary. Let's go back, it's almost out of Konoha here, how can there be a restaurant, hey? Quote. At this time, Sunset Hong, who was already preparing to go home, suddenly smelled a nice smell. This aroma is completely different from the dishes she usually eats, and it doesn't even look like the food of a world. Really, Sunset's red eyes lit up, and with a fairly sensitive little nose, he followed the fragrance all the way. 100 meters, 50 meters, 20 meters. Take a turn, 10 meters. When Sunset Hong came to the restaurant with the scent, she was completely surprised, and even subverted her perception of the restaurant. In her opinion, it would be okay if someone opened a restaurant in this deserted place outside Konoha. But you have to get a decent signboard. The restaurant in front of her only hung a small wooden sign with a large palm next to the door, and the 3 words, restaurant, were engraved on the small wooden sign, and there was no other logo. If you don't look closely, or if you don't look good, I'm afraid you won't notice this small wooden sign at all. Even if someone happens to pass by, they may think at first glance that this is just an ordinary residence. This should be the restaurant that Hongdu said, only open in the middle of the night, and it is very remote, plus there is no conspicuous signboard. I really don't know what the owner here thinks, so I am not afraid that there will be no customers coming to the door. But the taste is really fragrant. Sunset Hong couldn't help but take a deep breath again, and then walked towards the restaurant. Yeah, the moment the door was pushed open, a stronger fragrance struck, making Sunset Hong couldn't help but let out a soft snort. Soon, her gaze was completely fixed on the table. More precisely, dishes that are fixed to the table. The table was full of all kinds of dishes, which Red had never seen before. And there is also a very handsome man, who picks up a shrimp with chopsticks and is slowly sending it to his mouth. Are you the boss here? Does this dish of yours sell? Quote. Sunset Hong also wanted to eat this table, so she couldn't help but ask. I'm the owner here, and I made this table to eat myself, so I don't sell it. Juquan raised his head and replied, then directly put the shrimp in his mouth, closed his eyes and enjoyed the delicious meal. The moment the door of the shop was pushed open just now, Juquan had already recognized the Sunset Red. The black ends of her hair were slightly curled, and her ruby-like bright eyes were like very fine works of art, all embellished on this girl. The girl may not be able to describe it accurately, it should be said that Loli is right. Before I said that Shi Raihong was a girl, because her age was actually 15 years old, 3 years older than Hongdu. But from the outside, the Sunset Red is too young. And the body development is far less rapid than the red bean, so it looks more like a Loli. Well, expired Loli. Boss, don't be so rigid, I'm not paying, you can make another one for yourself to eat. Sunset rolled her eyes, and then said the best of both worlds. I refuse your approach, but when I'm done, I can make you another one. Juquan smiled, continued to pick up a piece of tender fish meat, and slowly put it in his mouth. Although Shi Raihong was still looking at herself, Juquan was not prepared to give it to her so easily. Wait, Shi Raihong looked at a table full of dishes. If he wanted to wait for this boss to eat them all, I don't know how long it would take. After a night in Konoha, she was already hungry. Although I also bought some snacks at the night market before, they can only be counted as snacks, and it is impossible to eat full. And most importantly, seeing this table of dishes fall into someone else's stomach is itself a torture for the hungry little starty. How about putting this boss to sleep first, and then secretly eating all these delicacies yourself, and finally leaving the meal money? Sunset Red suddenly had a bold idea, and her ruby-like eyes flashed, and she launched a hypnotic illusion. Juquan was eating crystal shrimp, and suddenly felt a slight sleepiness hit him, and he knew that this was an illusion. However, for him, this illusion technique is too low level to have any effect at all, and even the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye does not need to be opened. So after a short while, Juquan was still eating the dishes unhurriedly. How so? Sunset Red see this, small. His mouth let out an exclamation, but then covered it. In her opinion, this boss is obviously an ordinary person, not like a ninja at all, how can he not fall asleep yet? In this regard, Shi Raihong felt very surprised. In Konoha, the illusion of their Sunset clan, although not as good as that of the Uchiha clan, but they are also illusion families, and there is no reason why even an ordinary person cannot hypnotize. Illusion technique, Nami no technique of falling Sakura. The low-level illusion just now is different, and the current Sunset Red uses a high-level illusion technique that can hypnotize even the upper ninja. Oops, so sleepy. Although Juquan still didn't feel much, he still cooperated and lay on the table, looking like he was asleep. How could Juquan not know about the idea of Sunset Red's Loli? So he prepared to make a show, and then catch it on the spot. Boss, quote. Shi Raihong screamed softly twice, seeing that the boss in front of him did not react in the slightest, and suddenly felt that he had succeeded. Then she gently picked up the chopsticks and pinched a crystal clear shrimp into her mouth. Ah! At this time, the Sunset Red that finally ate the dish was full of happiness. The bright color of the shrimp, as well as the soft and crispy texture, coupled with the unique umami flavor, make people feel as if the whole heart is about to melt, and they can't stop chopsticks. It's just that the Sunset Red of eating Jungwon, but he didn't notice that the corners of Juquan's mouth were slightly upturned. Originally, Juquan was going to wake up directly, but what happened next made him change his plan. No. With such a delicacy, how can there be no shochu? This is a restaurant, there will definitely be. Quote. Sunset Hong paused halfway through eating, stopped her chopsticks with difficulty, and searched for them in the store. Soon, Sunset Hong found a lot of drinks in the small compartment behind the counter, including a few bottles of very special shochu. Those bottles of very special soju, without any logo, were the previous Juquan thought that the wine of the Hokage world was too light, and they were pure by themselves, and the alcohol content was not low. I just didn't expect that at this time, I was found by Sunset Red. Ahem, this wine is so strong. Quote, Sunset Red poured a large glass of white wine, drank it, and within a few seconds, 2 red clouds appeared on his little face. Wine was something she secretly drank once when she was bored at home. Somehow, she liked the thrilling feeling and embarked on the road of no return. Since then, whenever she has the opportunity, she will always drink a cup or two to reach a slightly drunk state. It's a pity that she has a strict tutoring and is ordered that children are not allowed to drink, so she can't find an opportunity. But now it's different. Now in the restaurant outside, the only owner who knows is still asleep, so Sunset Hong also drank it boldly. It's just that this wine doesn't seem to be the same as what she drank before. The feeling of dizziness, with the onset of alcohol, became more and more intense, and even made Sunset Hong think that she was standing on the clouds. Stealing food and drink is not something a girl should do. Juquan can't continue to cooperate with the acting, and if he doesn't stop it, Sunset Hong will soon have a second drink. The liquor he purified had more than 50 degrees, far from being comparable to the ordinary soju of 10 or 20 degrees. And that cup is not small, 1 cup has half a caddy. If she lets Sunset Red drink a second cup, I'm afraid she will vomit so much that she forgets herself. How did the boss wake up so quickly? Even if Shang Shinobi falls into my illusion, I will have to sleep for at least an hour. Quote. Sunset Hong's eyes widened, and she was surprised in disbelief. Coupled with that growing drunkenness, it even made her say such a thing as using illusion. However, drunk people generally do not feel afraid or weak-hearted, so after a pause, she smiled wickedly. Stubborn boss, tell you not to let me eat, now that I eat things, and I drink wine, isn't it very distressing? Quote, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.